is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Brooks! Goodbye. Jonathan Brooks. 54 yards for the Texas touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Empty backfield for Williams. He's got a wing back and a receiver boundary side right. High snap, yanked down, sets to throw, scans to his right, scans back to his left. Is he going to run now? Now he fakes, running the near side. He's going to whip it downfield, and it is caught at the 35-yard line across the field, running to the right side. He's being chased by Woods. Can't get him. 10-5 end zone. Touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Estimate is loose. Hundred estimate. Touchdown Notre Dame.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
So that is a costly penalty that puts Kentucky back on the field. And then Ray Davis. All day Ray. Look at him go. Man, oh man, is Davis doing it up. 75-yard touchdown for sweet baby Ray.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Anais coming near side. Anais Smith leads to midfield, cuts it back. This one may go to the house. Ain't nobody gonna catch Anais Smith.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon. David Smoak right here in the middle. I'm the old guy, then Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, the two youngins. And we bring you this show until 6 o'clock, 3 to 6 every weekday from 3 until 6 Central. And we will also discuss many of the games, including focus quite a bit on Texas and Oklahoma. We'll have our college picks a little bit after 4 o'clock today. And hear from former Texas defensive back and analyst Rod Babers, John Hoover, allsooners.com on Oklahoma, Taylor McHargue of ESPN, Sam Kahn, who's covering the game at the State Fair this weekend from theathletic.com, and even Mickey will join us from DallasCowboys.com, plus Off the Radar and the Top 5. Let's start with today's schedule in college football. Tonight, Sam Houston State, their first year as an FBS, will play at Liberty on the CBS Sports Network, and Western Kentucky at Louisiana Tech, that game on ESPN tonight at 7 o'clock. Nothing really big, but again, Liberty's pretty good football team, and Sam Houston State trying to get through their first year of FBS. There is a Big 12 game tomorrow night, Kansas State at Oklahoma State, and the Gundys, the Fighting Mike Gundys, are needing a win desperately.
Yeah, Sam Houston been a little bit of a rocky introduction, so that transition has been a little tough for them. But yeah, I mean, good to have football on tonight. Going to Liberty should be a nice little challenge for them. That probably means they're 0-5 now, unfortunately. So that tough trek will continue. But really like what Caden Salter had done at Liberty up until this point. They're 4-0, and he's played really well. Young man from Cedar Hill. So Joey McGuire's old program that he built up and established. So that'll have some interesting little tie-ins there. But yeah, it's been a rough go of things for the Bearcats, and I know that you really shed a tear as an SFA alum that it's been such a struggle for.
I've actually gotten to like them because I like their coach. I really do, and we've had him on a handful of times, and it's a tough transition. And they're one of the reasons why they want you to have that 2-year window rather than what James Madison wants, because they've been winning right off the top. These are Conference USA games. Jacksonville State won last night. They're 5-0, and then Liberty trying to get to 5-0 if they can possibly win that. Go 5-1 Jacksonville State, and Liberty is at 4-0 trying to get to 5-0. Now, Texas Tech, I wish we could show you the uniforms, and we're having a little bit of a glitch in our graphics right now, but Craig, I happened to check Craig's response to pictures of the Texas Tech Red Raiders uniforms this Saturday night against Baylor at McLean Stadium. And Craig, what caught your attention?
Well, it's a shame we don't have graphics because you could see, but if you go to Texas Tech's football Twitter account, and it was sometime last night that they posted this graphic, and it's basically got a Red Raider player who's like hovering over McLean Stadium, and, you know, the stadium's beaming the neon. But what was noticeable about it was the Texas Tech player was wearing an all-black uniform, black helmet, black jersey, black pants, and that might seem insignificant to some people who don't really know too much about either program. But for me, I was like, oh, wow, they are trolling the heck out of Baylor here. And the reason being that Baylor's fan base has had the biggest of to-dos, especially early on this season. And really a couple of weeks ago, it got to the height of its, you know, I guess, arguments and passion. They really want a blackout, and they really want black uniforms more than anything else. And most of all, they really want the black uniforms that the team used to wear back during the Bryles years, because those were so cool and whatnot. And just those uniform sets in general, I think people still prefer. So there's this big thing about the blackout, and that was what the Texas game, right? The Texas game when they had the fan-made blackout, and a number of people showed up in black. Now, it looked more like an Oklahoma State crowd, which was part of the problem, and it was also not officially sanctioned, if you will, so not everybody was on board, so it was kind of a half blackout.
The section of students looked really good,
yeah,
and they were
good.
lit up, but again, 38-6.
Yeah, then the people behind them, I think, had a pretty good block of black, but, you know, then there was a lot of, it just looked like Oklahoma State.
It didn't pop on TV like they wanted it to either, which is part of the thing, is because it was also a night game.
Yes.
So you couldn't, like, the night game is supposed to look darker. Like, Penn State's whiteout looks amazing. Like,
Right.
it's
Looks like it
amazing.
snowed. Yeah.
It looks like it snowed in the stands, like you said. So the blackout just didn't make sense. And then, because Garrett and I were here, we watched it all on television, and the first thing I said to him was like, yeah, this is not popping. It's not.
It did in
just
person
didn't.
to me, but
It
maybe
did.
I guess on TV it
But
did not.
TV, that's what you're trying to do, is create that atmosphere. That's why they were worried about it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for the students in particular, and I guess the former students too, you know, they were really trying to make this whole homegrown, fan-made drive, and so a number of people got on board with it, but not enough to make it the blackout like they desired. So anyways, it was this whole big to-do about the school's fuddy-duddies and, you know, all this jazz, and so the blackout became this controversial topic that nobody got, you know, officially on board with, but they did it of their own regard. And then here's Texas Tech, basically a couple of weeks later, and they're rolling in for a night game, and they were wearing all black uniforms, and I do not think that's a coincidence. I think you got a lot of former Baylor people on that staff that pay attention to what goes on around the league, and I think they know this fan base, and they know how mad, you know, Mac Rhodes was driven by uniform talk and just the lack of the All Blacks. And so what does Tech do? In Waco, in a night game, they roll out the all-black uniforms, and so I just said elite troll job because I think that's exactly what it was. But
is there any way, Garrett, I don't know what the camera angles are here. Here it is right here. I happened to print it out. You can see it. It's not. It looks like almost, in a way, like almost a Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, they were all black.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Tech in all black. That's not anything new, but just the fact that they're wearing it in Waco is definitely, that was not unintentional.
No, and it's easier for them because it's one of their actual colors.
Right.
Yeah, no,
they don't have to. They don't have to, like, there's no, like, they don't have to call. They're still Under Armour? Is that where they're still with? They don't have to call Under Armour and say, hey, can you make us some black uniforms? Because that's part of their deal. It's part of their colors anyway. So it's a little easier for them to get that done.
Steve Sarkisian.
So well done, Texas Tech. I think that was a nice little, you know, that's what college football is, right? These little shots sometimes, a little fun with things, and I think the Texas Tech was having fun with the uniform selection. So well done. Like I said on Twitter, elite troll job. And I think a lot of people cracked up when they saw that.
Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian, one of the questions this week has been whether their freak tight end, he is absolutely a hybrid in many ways. Jatavion Sanders, he is good to go. I had seen some of the words on Twitter, or excuse me, on the chat room, that is actually his grandfather or someone had made the comment he was good to go, and there was a lot of back and forth on that. He is truly a freak. Good to go for Saturday's game against Oklahoma. Ryan Watts, the cornerback, is a game-time decision. Both left the Kansas game with injuries. That game at 11 o'clock at the State Fair, at the Cotton Bowl, coming up. Two unbeaten teams for the first time since 2000 and, was it 11 or 9?
No, I think it was like 9.
9.
Yeah.
Since 2009. And that game, so again, Sanders, one of the many weapons, but he is cleared to go.
Yeah, that's a huge deal for them because, again, even though they have weapons on top of weapons, he's kind of a unique one and a matchup nightmare, especially in the red zone. So Oklahoma doesn't catch a break there. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, Jatavian Sanders. I mean, you know that there's going to be one tight end this year will be a first-round pick, and that'll be Brock Bowers. But I can see him sneaking into the latter part of that first round for sure if he continues on the track that he's on, because he is just such a physical, athletic freak.
Yeah, 2008, the last time they were both top 10. So there you go with that. Okay. And Jatavian Sanders, I have seen him in some mock drafts. Now, those can be really hit or miss because there's just a number of those types of things now and sites like that. And so you never really know. I mean, for example, I don't know exactly which site, but just some site. Like they had Connor Galvin as a first-round pick this time, a couple years ago, and he went undrafted. So, but Jatavian Sanders, he's getting drafted. There's no doubt. It's just a matter of will he be in the first or not. And in some reputable mock drafts, I have seen him mentioned in the first. So, yeah, he's an absolute freak show and a major weapon for them. And I think they would have been okay without Jatavian Sanders, but the fact that they have him, I think, is just not what you wanted to hear if you're Oklahoma necessarily. I know you're going to, we're not worried about, but still, no, you'd rather Jatavian Sanders not be available to play in this game.
No, yeah.
You want to beat them head up at their best, so I get that too. But, yeah, he definitely makes them a lot better. And then the Ryan Watts thing, I mean, that's a big deal too, because I think if you're looking at areas where maybe Oklahoma can attack Texas, it's the passing game versus Texas'
if they
secondary.
have time to throw it. Yeah.
So Ryan Watts not being available, that is definitely notable that he's not yet been cleared off the way that Sanders has.
Remember the list a couple of days ago USA Today had out about the highest from top to bottom FBS football coaches' salaries, and the lowest FBS salary appeared to be Gus Malzahn. Pete Thamel earlier today, Gus Malzahn agreed to a contract extension through the 2027 season. Now, when I read that, I was like, because that list made it look bad. He apparently agreed to this earlier in the summer, raised his salary to $4 million per year on July the 1st. The deal goes as high as $5.5 million in 2026 and 2027.
Yeah, he knew how much he was making. It's not here's the thing. If Gus Malzahn somehow didn't know what the rest of the coaches were making, plus his buyout, and compared to the other coaches of the country, maybe that's fine. You get the deal you get when you sign with the UCF.
He may not know, but his agent would.
His agent better damn know. I mean, that's his job to know. So, and then, it does it's convenient. You got to announce it if you're UCF when this information comes out, because your fans can be like, whoa, hey, wait a minute. So you're going to tell us we're lowballing Gus here? We're so thrilled to have him. Let's get this, taken care of. But they already had. They were just probably waiting for a time to announce it, and now here it is.
Yeah, great timing after the game last Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Incredible timing.
That's also
that
true.
article could have come out at any other point. It just happened to come out after the 35-7 meltdown to open Big 12 play at home. But no, that's great for him and for UCF. I think he's a really good coach. Obviously, there's some things at times that we'd like better. I'm sure they would have, in hindsight, should have been more aggressive, to close out that game or whatever. But he's a really good coach. That program's in good hands with him. And I was surprised to see him that low, but that's not the case anymore. So good for him and good for them.
Sam Kahn, who's covering Texas OU, will join us here in about 10 minutes or so. And around the corner, former Texas defensive back Rod Babers. And then this story here. Paul and I discussed this a little bit right before we went on the air on what really happened. But you know about that some of the waivers of getting an extra year and being eligible after a transfer. Colorado has a story that's out there. Texas Tech has one with A.J. McCarty, who was at Baylor. Then you have Florida State with one. And the one that's gotten most of the attention, in fact, Mac Brown and North Carolina have blasted the NCAA involving North Carolina student-athlete Tez Walker. The staff, the NCAA staff, they released this, and this came from Charlie Baker, who's the president of the NCAA, that the staff determined new information qualifies Walker for the transfer waiver. The information had not been made available by North Carolina previously, despite the school's multiple chances to do so. Here's the quote from Baker. This is throwing down some barbs here. Is it a quote? Is it politics? Paul, you and Craig can discuss. It is unfortunate that North Carolina failed to provide this important information previously. While we must be careful not to compromise a student-athlete's right to privacy when it comes to sensitive issues, we want to assure the Division I membership and everyone watching how the new transfer rules are applied. that this meets the new transfer waiver standards. North Carolina's behavior and decision to wage a public relations campaign is inappropriate and outside the bounds of the process North Carolina's own staff supported. Had the North Carolina staff not behaved in this fashion and submitted this information weeks ago, this entire unfortunate episode could have been avoided.
Yeah, how convenient that you can't tell us what that information was, that you didn't know weeks ago. And that this whole problem is of your making because you decided to retroactively enact a rule. So, yes, North Carolina is probably right to unleash on you in that way, maybe not in the way they did it, but to ask questions because, again, this is your fault. You could have done both. Said, this is the rule. You've entered it after this date. You are done. Don't do it retroactively when there's a bunch of people who are already in there, like Tez Walker. And then North Carolina apparently agreed to this. I think it's politics, in my opinion, because I don't know what piece of sensitive information about Tez Walker could have come out now in this process that North Carolina wouldn't have revealed and trying everything to get him in. I think this is politics. This sounds like a go-away move. Charlie Baker is a politician. He is from Massachusetts. That's why they hired him, to navigate the politics. This sounds totally political to me.
Craig, before you respond, then why would North Carolina not call BS immediately?
Because they got what they wanted.
Okay.
That's how politics works.
I think if they did what they were supposed to do, and even if the NCAA clears Walker, he's cleared now, why not go in with both fists? That's my thought. Craig?
Yeah, I think Paul's right. It's politics. Just like the last time they were in trouble with the NCAA and ended up skating free during the academic scandal. Yeah. So if you're in North Carolina, like, why do you even get scared about the NCAA at this point? Because you've gotten what you wanted the last two times. To my knowledge, and maybe there's some separate case that went otherwise, but those are the two most high profile. Good for Tez Walker, and glad that he's now able to play. And obviously, he's a huge part of what they expected to have this season, and that's why it's a double whammy. I think if he was just some redshirt freshman who wasn't going to see the field, is it as passionate of a plea from Mac Brown weeks ago? I don't know. I would hope so, but I'm not so sure about that. But still, regardless, good for the student athlete to be able to get the opportunity that he was wanting from the very beginning. I don't like the idea of preventing guys from playing. The whole part about the information we didn't have is super confusing, but when is an NCAA explanation not super confusing? So that's just kind of comes with the territory sometimes, I feel like, and I don't know that we'll ever really get down to the root of what that was. But yeah, it's very confusing the way that this all unfolded, and I don't know what quite to make of it other than, like Paul said, politics must have come into play, because why else, right before the middle of the season are we suddenly, oh no, now it's good to go. I'm curious if other cases that have been, in the news over the last few months, if they now get, reviewed and there's suddenly new information discovered, or is this a one-off with Tez Walker, which would even lean more into the political thing, or whatever that smoking gun was that they didn't have that we don't know about that they don't want to say. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to kind of try to unpack and understand here, because it is just such an odd reversal. But good for Tez Walker, good for North Carolina, and that's good news for them.
I would assume that if that piece of information is something that's commonplace, then North Carolina sharing it with everyone else would be not beneficial to the NCAA, and that all these other places could call up and be like, yeah, our guy has that too. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's why this is so strange to me, because what is the information that is so outside the realm of, like, the rule that, like, oh, well, now we have to, after we've dug our heels in on this because we made a mistake that we didn't acknowledge in the first place. Like, what is it? It's not. It's just this sounds to me like a totally political thing. And Charlie Baker said, look, I'm going to give you what you want. You were right. We messed up. But I can't admit that now because I've dug in. So here's the situation we're going to create. You're going to accept it. I'm going to throw some rocks at you, and we're going to move on.
All right.
That's how politics works in this country. Charlie Baker knows that, and that's what he did here.
Well, I'm happy for Tez Walker.
I am too.
Roy Melton on the Texas Tech blackout, or at least the jerseys, he said, just to say sometimes we do these pregame things with the uniforms we aren't wearing. Just a picture. I imagine this one will be, but just saying it's not always what they release on a Thursday of what they wear on a Saturday. But I still think they're going to wear those jerseys, and Baylor's having a gold out, so to speak, on the game. So that would look pretty damn good to me on TV and or in person.
I'm trying to give them more credit than they're deserving of then, because I'm thinking it's calculated and well thought out, because that does not seem coincidental. And I know those guys are dialed in. So I know that they're not like, oh, we didn't realize there was controversy over the black hat. I think that they're too smart for that.
I'm going to text a couple of people.
But you're right. Like that could change. I think that would be a mistake, though, to change it at this point.
There's one guy on the staff who definitely is too. And would like to
not
tweak
even
it.
one of the
Not even one of the main guys, but like, yeah, no, okay. MC Gusto has a question for us on the chat room. He is talking about when coaches essentially do what Dion did and send a massive bunch of players into the portal. Can they fight that to keep their scholarship? Now, there's like two different schools of thought. Basically, if a player says, look, I don't want to leave this school, usually they will honor the academic part of the scholarship and they'll pay for the rest of their time, because they'll pay for the educational part. They'll do that. If you say, look, I'm happy here at Colorado, if you don't want me on the team, they'll usually honor that part of the financial thing. But scholarships are kind of year-to-year things.
Yeah, it's not when you get a 4-year deal.
No, you don't get a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
It's essentially a 5-year series of 1-year contracts.
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting, because you have 5 years to play for. So that's kind of how it works.
And so Roger Dodger said, of course you can transfer. Yes, you can. But you also can be kind of asked to leave. And that's what they did. And that's not the only place that's done that. There are many schools. And you could see players that's kind of why some of them enter the transfer portal, even if they don't want to, because they're kind of told that their spot is gone or they're not going to be given a chance. And why would you want to play if you're not going to be given a chance? All right. When we come back, Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, he will cover Texas OU. Also, we'll hear from Oklahoma's and John Hoover, who covers OU, and Rod Babers, who played at Texas and covers them too. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. My dentist, Dr. Steve Childress, has done a remarkable job at helping me understand how to stay ahead of my dental work. And that probably was something I wish he would have helped me with 25 or 30 years ago, because eventually things just do. If you don't take care of your dental work, that happens. Whether you eventually have a cavity, which would be simple, or perhaps you have to have a tooth pulled because it's just not in good spot. I've had teeth pulled, I've had cavities, I've had crowns, I've had it all. And most of it because of the fact that I was always too worried about going to the dentist, because I knew I probably had something wrong. And then one day you bite into something and it's like, oh my God, it jolts you. So Dr. Steve Childress not only is going to fix whatever's not good, he's also going to have a game plan for you. And it's not just every 6 months or every year's teeth cleaning from a hygienist. It is a game plan to get your dental work where you need it to be or prevent where it might be going. Dr. Steve Childress in Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Alan Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible line of 2023 models like the Grand Cherokee, Renegade, Wrangler, and Gladiator. Come see what Alan Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Pioneer Steel & Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel & Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient, with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel & Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6, and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Sam Kahn covers Texas OU at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas on Saturday, and he joins us now on 365 Sports. Sam, this is the first time since 2008 they're both unbeaten. They've had others, of course, every year is a big year. But after last year's 49-0 shellacking, where usually Texas has been on the other side of getting thumped, how important is this game for OU to get some of their turf back?
Yeah, it's huge because losing that way, it's one thing to lose Red River Shootout. It's a whole other thing to lose it in that fashion. It was pretty bad. And granted, there were circumstances. No Dylan Gabriel, I think Davis Bellwood, quarterback, obviously struggled mightily in that game. And they're in a much better position there now. If Gabriel were to get hurt, Jackson Arnold, the former 5-star we know here from the state of Texas, you're in a much better position. But this is just about, I think, gaining some pride back. For one, it's this team wants to be competitive, and this is going to have some conference title implications. Both of these teams are on track right now as it sits to get to the Big 12 championship game. Maybe they get a chance to see each other again in Arlington. So if you want to stay in that or stay ahead of that race, this is critical in that aspect too. And lastly, I would say this for Oklahoma. If you have your sights set on the college football playoff this year, obviously winning the conference is a big part of that. But when you look at the rest of their schedule, there's nothing there that really allows you a signature win. You've got Kansas is a good team on the road. BYU has been good, off to a good start. Maybe TCU at the end of the year, West Virginia has been better, but none of those wins would have the impact on your resume that a win over Texas would, whereas Texas already has the win over Bama, which I think is going to carry them for a while. So that's another aspect I think that's a little bit underrated in this aspect.
Sam, on the field matchup wise, what does Oklahoma have to do to limit Texas and to maybe highlight what they have going on there? That they had 50 points last week. The offense is starting to come alive, but they don't have near the weapons, at least experience-wise, that Texas does.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to limit the run game first and foremost, because everything that Texas does offensively and everything that works well with Steve Sarkisian's offense starts with the run game. Because if Texas is able to run the ball, then they're able to use the play action pass and they're able to go attack downfield. That's the one thing that I think has been a really pleasant surprise for Texas, is that so many people were concerned about Bijan and Roshan and those guys going off the NFL. Well, who's going to be the guy? Jonathan Brooks is pretty darn good, and they've got some other guys too, but he's really broken out. And so I think being able to contain him has got to be priority one. for Oklahoma. And then on the other side, if you're Oklahoma, you want to be able to win offensively at the line of scrimmage against the defensive line. Now, Oklahoma hasn't run the ball very well. This is not a team that's going to necessarily run it down your throat. But they want to go fast. They want to throw the ball downfield, and I think they have to have some presence, whether it's just moving the chains a little bit, just some threat of a run game, or whether it's in the screen game or some extension of the run in the pass game. They're going to have to find a way to keep Texas moving and off balance a little bit, because if you let Texas will beat you up on the line of scrimmage. They did to Alabama. So I think it's going to be – I think you're going to see Oklahoma use that tempo as much as they can to their advantage.
Sam, I mean, was Brett Yormark kind of damned if he did, damned if he didn't, was showing up or not showing up to this game? I mean, it was kind of funny. The hand-wringing, had he shown up, would have been there, but he doesn't go, and it's just it's an ugly divorce, I guess.
I mean, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me if he shows up. The fact that I would be more surprised if Greg Sankey hadn't said he was going to show up. So the fact that he's there, I think is appropriate. The fact that Brett Yormark isn't there, Brett already told us back in August when he visited Texas Tech that he was going to be at the last game when Texas Tech plays Texas in Austin. So he's already seen OU, and so now we know he'll go see Texas on Black Friday. So, yeah, no, I don't think it really matters that much. I know people want to make a big deal about that. The comments that he made back in August, obviously, I certainly understand Texas and OU taking some exception to that. But other than that, I don't. It's not that big of a deal to me. It's just all a bunch of talk and fluff, and ultimately nobody's going to care when the game gets kicked off.
Totally agree with you. It's just kind of funny that it's just coming to an end, and it's just a funny situation. But sticking with I guess the SEC and the actual teams there right now, obviously a huge one down in College Station, the Aggies and Alabama. Your thoughts? I mean, Max Johnson's taking over now at quarterback. There's a lot of confidence there. Alabama slight favorites, and they've obviously had to retool a bit this season. How are you feeling about the Tide and the Aggies?
Yeah, I think this is really going to be compelling, and I'm mildly sad that it's not a night game because it starts at 2:30, which is when Red River's ending. So I'm going to be over there doing interviews and trying to write through the first half of this one. So I ain't going to be able to catch as much of it I would like, but they have had some really epic battles the last 2 years. Of course, we all remember A&M upsetting them 2 years ago in Kyle Field with Zach Calzada as the quarterback. And then last year, even though they were injured and A&M had all of its offensive struggles, they were a play away from winning that game in Tuscaloosa. So I expect it's going to be another tight, hotly contested game this year. Dare I say, I think you have to feel better about where A&M is offensively right now than you do Alabama. I think Jalen Milroe is certainly starting to get it together, and I think they're starting to build some momentum offensively. But when you look at there's really nowhere that A&M I think has a talent disadvantage. The roster's in really good shape. I went and saw them a couple weeks ago when they played Auburn, and just the amount of talent on that defensive line, my goodness. I mean, they have got dudes after dudes after dudes. They can really get after the passer. They can stuff the run. And so I would not be shocked if this is a low-scoring game, just because I think A&M's defense can keep it that way. And then I can totally see Jimbo Fisher not trying to necessarily, air the ball out, so to speak. But they do have the talent if they want to. And that's going to be the fascinating thing, is that I think when these teams play, and especially when A&M plays Alabama, I know Jimbo's not the primary play caller anymore, but I would imagine he's heavily involved in the game plan this week, because he always seems to have a little something in his back pocket, whether it's some extra motion, some extra formation, things that you don't see in the first half of the season, all of a sudden seem to pop up when they play Alabama. So that's something I'll be curious to see how different they look offensively when they play the Tide.
Sam, is this a bit of a pressure game and a pressure back half of the season here for Jimbo, in that they hired him to come and win the SEC West and compete for national titles? This is the best opportunity that anybody not named Alabama or LSU will have to win the SEC West. If they don't do it this year, it kind of begs the question, when is that going to happen?
Yeah, no doubt. I think there is some degree of that for sure because it does feel really wide open in the SEC West. Now, if you saw LSU take another loss, obviously this Alabama team is not as good as it has been. And then you look at the rest of that schedule that they have, it's pretty manageable. Again, when you look at the talent on the roster, if you want to say that it may be a little bit tougher because Connor Wegman's not in the lineup and you got Max Johnson, I can get with that. But I think Max Johnson is plenty capable. He to me, is one of the better backup quarterbacks out there. And he runs the offense well. He knows it. He's got plenty of experience. I think before he started the Auburn game or the Arkansas game, he had 17 SEC starts under his belt. So this is a guy that's been around. And so I don't see a reason to think that they can't contend for the SEC West just because Johnson's there. I think as long as they maintain some really good luck health-wise, especially up front, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be competing for that. And that's why I think if you're an A&M fan, win or lose against Alabama, there you should really have a strong second half of the season based on the way the schedule looks out. You should not be losing to Ole Miss. You should not be losing to Mississippi State, which is something A&M has a bad habit of doing. You go look at the years that they're 8-4 or whatever. The Mississippi schools are the ones that trip them up. There's no reason to lose to those schools this year. Those A&M, from a personnel standpoint, is better than them.
Sam, in Waco on Saturday night, Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders coming in at 2-3. Bears 2-3 after the miraculous win over UCF. Obviously, there's some crossover with these staffs. Doesn't have quite the heat that it had in the first meeting a year ago in Lubbock, but obviously, whoever wins this game is going to be sitting in pretty good position given how the season started for both. I mean, they'll be, above 500 in Big 12 play. They'll be 500 on the year. What are your thoughts about what you've seen from both and kind of how all that plays into the situation on Saturday night?
Yeah, this is a really big one for both of these teams for the reasons you stated. I think you do not want to really fall behind and have two conference losses this early in the season. And both of these teams need positive momentum. I mean, Baylor obviously got a big boost of it in that comeback against UCF. And you really would like, if you're Baylor, I think you'd really like to see them start fast because that offense, you felt like they finally got a groove. They were able to move the ball downfield consistently in the last 2.5 quarters of that game to have long extended drives. And that's something I think we haven't seen enough of this year. And so can you do that out of the gate? And if you can, then maybe you can take control of this game early. If you're Tech, obviously this is a team that we all had high expectations for. Joey McGuire didn't shy away from it. He welcomed them. He talked about them openly about trying to win the Big 12. If you're going to be that program, then you need to go in there and win this game. You need to go and win this game in Waco. And also, I'm sure there's a little bit of pride there. We talked about Oklahoma and Texas, and it wasn't maybe quite that bad of a score margin, but it was a spanking. Baylor spanked them in Lubbock last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, they ran roughshod over Texas Tech's defense, and I imagine Tim DeRuyter is probably reminding his team of that, and they're going to want to try to figure out a way to not allow that to happen this week. But I think both of these teams obviously have a little bit of positive to build on. Tech obviously with the strong second half against U of H last week, that's a really big boost for them. But I think this is to some degrees a must-win for each of these teams just because of they want to be able to keep pace in this conference race.
I did ask Joey yesterday. We had him on, Joey McGuire, and one of the questions, Sam, you're talking about how they took that momentum and they absolutely accepted the hype. And that he actually asked his team whether or not he had put too much kind of like pressure on them, and they're not reacting to that. So that'll be interesting to see how they react to that, and also what happens if, in fact, they don't win, because we do know that they were the so-called dark horse. Texas was the obvious choice this year, and it's interesting. And plus the intermixings of the conference schedule, between the coaching staff between Texas Tech and former Baylor guys. Hey, have fun. I will text you the updates of Alabama A&M for you on your phone. I will keep you updated.
That.
All right. Thanks
so much, guys. I'll take care.
Have a great time. Sam's on his way to pick up one of his children, and we appreciate his time jumping on with us here on 365 Sports. We will also hear from Rod Babers, who played at Texas, covers Texas. He'll be with us here in just a moment.
Yeah, I'm I'm always jealous of people when you get to go to Texas OU. It's kind of a circus to get in and get out, especially when you're covering the game. It starts at 11, so that means you kind of have to be in the parking lot at 7:30 a.m.
No, yeah, you do.
So, but just as a spectator of look, if you're a fan of college football and can somehow find your way into that mess, I think you should try to do it. It's a bucket list trip. I said this to Pierre Nugent on the earlier show that I do, the triple option, and when he was down here, he never got to go cover it. And I said, well, that's a shame because it is just a college football event. Like, if you hate both schools, you should still go and see it. It's that cool of a football experience.
And it's 50-50. It is, no question, the crimson and burnt orange.
Yeah, it's a very cool deal. The true splitting of the crowd's always awesome to see in person and even on TV. I know why they don't move it from 11 a.m. and the danger reasons why they don't do that is they don't want a bunch of people who've been at the fair all day drinking to, be popping off at 9 o'clock at night because the Longhorns are getting beat or whatever. But I would love to just see what that would look like. A night game at the State Fair between Oklahoma and Texas. I know why they don't, and they probably never will. But I just wouldn't that just be cool to see what that would even look like?
Yeah, just give it a shot.
Yeah.
I remember there was a rivalry I covered, and Craig knows about this, when it's now Legacy and now Tyler High. They used to play on Saturday afternoon because they were so worried, and there was a fairgrounds type area, an event that was going on in Tyler, and they moved that game from Friday night to Saturday afternoon just because they had some concerns of what's going on.
The AD who did that then came here and tried to do that with Waco and University.
Yeah, didn't
and
go over
everybody's
very
like, well, why? Like, oh, well, this is what we did in Tyler. We're like, we'll tell you, people aren't going to care that much.
The afternoon setting was great, but they did that. But yeah, even if you're a team that wins and you're leaving the stadium at 8 or 9 or 10.
Yeah, they don't want that happening.
Whoever it
I
might
get
be.
why.
Yeah.
That would be really bad, and you need a lot of police presence and all of that.
They'd be out of corn dogs and funnel cake. Deep fried Oreos.
And beer.
Gone. It'd just be gone.
Hey, that would just be if you could just keep all of that in check, which is impossible to do, that would be a really cool scene.
Yeah, the nighttime scene of that game almost looked like a bowl game. Brett McMurphy just had a quote from Bubba Cunningham of North Carolina, the AD. It's not clear why NCAA delayed making the correct decision in August, but we are pleased to get to the appropriate resolution now.
There you go.
Ding.
Thank you.
When we come back, Rod Babers. Later on, we'll hear from John Hoover, covers Oklahoma, and so much more. We appreciate you being a part of what we do every day. This is 365 Sports. The city of Woodway, that first annual father and son cookout is around the corner. It's, October 21st, or a couple of weeks away. And you can go to discoverwoodway.com online and get yourself some tickets. Rock climbing, obstacle course, bounce houses, not quite the one in Orlando, and also even much more. You can buy tickets and register for tickets by going to discoverwoodway.com. Here's what they're going to have available. This is for sons, fathers, grandfathers, uncles. All of the special men in a little boy's life can enjoy an afternoon of burgers and hot dogs from Double R Burgers, ice cream from Heritage Creamery, rock climbing, as I mentioned, and all of the obstacle courses and more. It's at the Woodway Family Center. It's on October 21st from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., but go online and get your tickets at discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bars, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning vent. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
.365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Rod Babers has played in the game. He's been a part of Texas at OU, covers OU as well, and he joins us on 360 Texas. Excuse me, my God, he may hang up on us. He joins us now on 365 Sports. Rod, can you try to describe what the week is like? Can it still try to be the same week? Is it different? How much difference when you play this game?
Yeah, it's not like every other week. That's that's for sure. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's not like every week, and especially, you know, if you're looking at it from the OU side, and I've been on that side where, you know, one of these games I was embarrassed and we were basically shamed of our performance in that matchup in 2000 when Oklahoma just put an Old Testament style butt whipping on us. That's what Texas did to Oklahoma last season. I can guarantee Oklahoma's been obsessing about this game the entire offseason. And I guarantee you Brent Venables and his staff have been obsessing about it. They spent extra time preparing for this game plan. I'm sure Texas had done the same, but Texas had Alabama early on, so they couldn't totally spend their offseason devoted to the juggernaut, which is Oklahoma. But Oklahoma could do that for Texas because they had the luxury of being able to do that. So I expect Oklahoma to come out, you know, with all their firepower, guns a-blazing early on. I think you're going to see the fight from Oklahoma early on because they know they got to match the energy from Texas. Because Texas, at this point, based on, I think, the analysis of the matchup, they're just a more talented football team right now.
Rod, what is the key to not getting too keyed up for this individual game as a player in it?
I think being a veteran helps, right? And when you look at the quarterbacks, right? There's a great stat that if you look at first-time starters for quarterbacks in the Texas-Oklahoma game going up against starting quarterbacks who have experience in the Texas OU game, there have only been 4 first-time starters who've beaten a veteran starter from the Texas OU game in all of its history. All right, so you got right now Dylan Gabriel, who's going to be a first-time starter in this game, going up against Quinn Ewers, who's already started, had a spectacular performance last year. I think it's something about being able to handle the emotion because the environment is so unique. right? You got the fans that are split, the fans and the stands split right down the middle. It's at a neutral site. That neutral site is the Texas State Fair. There's so much vitriol and angst between the two squads and two programs. So I do think handling the emotion sometimes it's really tough for young players. That's why even on the Texas side, we've seen young teams get blown out in these games. And that's because I don't think they understand the rules of engagement, the magnitude of the platform that is Texas OU. And sometimes, it overwhelms them. Dylan Gabriel, though, is different because he's a sixth-year guy. I mean, he's been a veteran quarterback and in that system for a long time, just not in this game. But this game is unique. Even guys like Dan Neal told me, who played in the Super Bowl, that, hey, man, he would compare Texas OU to the Super Bowl that he played in terms of how emotionally charged the environment is. And guys like Big Red, Keith Moreland, legendary lifetime Longhorn, told me he's been in the World Series at the plate in the World Series in clutch time, and he felt the same emotions that he felt in the Texas OU game at that time. That's the only thing he can compare it to. So it definitely has that unique emotional charge.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because Gabriel's a guy who, if there's little slights to him, it's like the big game performances, and this is the biggest game he's played in his 6 years. So that's going to be fascinating. And sticking with that Oklahoma offense, Rod. I mean, obviously he's able to do some nice things through the air. They've got a burgeoning wide receiver core, some guys like Anthony that are stepping up and making plays. Nick Anderson. The run game though has been a little bit more of an issue. Kind of still figuring that out. It seems like. With Texas defense, what stands out as far as what Oklahoma might try to do? What are potential weaknesses? What are strengths?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I think most Longhorn fans that I've talked to, and if you watch the film on Texas, you're worried a little bit about the deep ball. There are some teams that have been able to attack Texas vertically down the field, specifically Texas safety. Texas rotating a few safeties, and guys. Some of those guys have been attacked vertically. Bama did it against Texas. Even Baylor was able to do it against Texas. Even Kansas last week took a vertical shot, a post route on one of Texas safeties and got a touchdown. And Texas had to face backup quarterbacks, right? The last 3 weeks. I mean, what are the odds, guys, that you face backup quarterbacks 3 weeks in a row? I mean, TCU at least got to knock them out last year. Texas has been able to face backup quarterbacks. This is the best quarterback Texas will face. And they've been a little bit vulnerable to that deep ball. Ryan Watts, the boundary corner who's starting for Texas, he's day-to-day dealing with an injury. If he doesn't start for Texas, or if he has to leave that game, that's a freshman, Malik Muhammad, who's probably going to be behind him. I just talked about how young players, they struggle, handling the emotion of this game. If you're Oklahoma, you're going to go. First of all, you're going at Ryan Watts anyway because he's coming off an injury. And then second, you're going after the freshman that's coming right behind him, playing in the biggest game of his career with inexperience. And Dylan Gabriel, one of the things he's really good at, guys, is the deep ball, right? He's completing nearly 60% of his passes 20 yards or more down the field. So they stress you horizontally, right, formationally, when they have those wide splits, those wide receivers, and then they're going to stress you vertically with a deep shot. That's how they try to make the run game work, try to make you play with light boxes, put your safeties in no man's land, get them stranded so they're late to running the alley to support the run. Texas safeties, Jalen Catalina specifically, he's really good at depth, supporting the run, coming up and running the alley. I think he's the guy that's going to play a lot in this matchup.
Rod, we mentioned and asked about the week of and how hard it's not just another game. It is Texas OU. What is it like, and you've experienced both, winning in this game and also after you've played the game and you lose? Is that different? Is it sick to your stomach feeling?
Yeah, unfortunately it feels like the end of the season. It's not. You really gotta pull yourself off the mat. And unfortunately I lost more than I won in this matchup. And I do remember that feeling because it's such a huge emotional letdown. I just talked about the emotion of it. And and when I was playing, guys, and I think '99 was my first year. That was the Mike Leach banana in the tailpipe dummy script game that we fell for and got down double digits and found a way to win. In 2000, Bob Stoops comes along, wins the national title in his second year, and then they take this matchup, Texas OU, back to the magnitude and the greatness that it should have been. And there was always national title implications. The winner would be catapulted into the national title conversation, and the loser would basically have to sit and wait on the forces around them and the football gods to throw them some luck and have their favor. So that's what you don't want. You want to be able to control your own fate. It happens in this matchup. And one thing to watch, guys, is the momentum in this game. It's so unique because the fans in the stands are split right down the middle. The momentum shifts are just so drastic. Everything's amplified. But when one team grabs the momentum, you got to grab it back. Remember when Caleb Williams took that 4th down, 60-something yards for a touchdown? Texas was up, 20-something, I think 3 touchdowns in that game. And you could tell, it was palpable, the momentum shift. And Texas never quite took it back. In Oklahoma, they maintained it for a long time. You have to be able to take that momentum back. If not, it's hard to gather it back because you can feel the letdown of one side of that stadium and the overwhelming joy of the other.
Rod, how do you expect to see defenses maybe adjust to the fact that Quinn Ewers can run a little bit and maybe people didn't realize that before?
Yeah, that's just unfair, isn't it? We didn't realize it either. I think Stark has encouraged some guys, like, if they're going to give you green grass and disrespect your athleticism, take it. He lost about 20 pounds. Everybody knows that. And I talked to Todd Dodge a couple of weeks ago, and Todd Dodge told us he ran track in high school. Who knew that? I guess he just wasn't very good, so nobody would have paid attention. But he can run. That is an element to his game now. And I think specifically it can help Texas guys in the red zone. The red zone is one of the few places where Texas struggles. Watch this in this game. If Brent Venables wants to play bend but break defense, that could be a problem for Texas. They're 108th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. Field goal percentage are struggling too because Bert Auburn been missing some easier field goals, I should say. So that might be a problem. You ain't got to stop Texas necessarily in between the 20s. If you can bow your back in the red zone when that field shrinks, that's where Texas is having some trouble scoring. We can't really explain it. Doesn't make sense, but they're so explosive that they haven't had to really worry about it because they're scoring from outside the red zone so much.
Rod, with that running game, Jonathan Brooks and his emergence over these last 3 weeks especially, I mean, I know he was kind of pegged as the guy going in, but obviously there's a lot of talk about the young running backs as well, and the stars and all of that. But just how important has that been to see him just become that guy, so to speak? And what have been your impressions of just, the run that he's been on, so to speak?
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable, guys. I mean, post Bijan and Rojo, we had no idea that the running game was going to be a strength for the team. The assumption was that the running game, was going to be a complementary piece to the passing game with all those weapons, JT Sanders, A.D. Mitchell, and X-Man. But now you're talking about the running game being a strength. Now you have to actually allocate resources to stop the running game. That's a mathematical equation, guys, that most defensive coordinators can't solve. They can't double X-Man, put a safety over the top of JT Sanders, and decide to stuff the box to stop the run. And that's what makes the job for Sark easier, and it makes Quinn Ewers' job a whole lot easier. And let's not discount the offensive line, guys. The maturity of this group. They average about 325 pounds, biggest offensive line in the Big 12. The massive Big Humans project Sark talks about is actually coming to fruition.
Hey, Rod, appreciate the passion and more. As a guy that played at Texas, and obviously you bleed burnt orange, when you have to give an opinion about them, when it's been a tough game, or do you ever get any blowback from that at all?
Oh, yeah, I've gotten plenty, man. I've gotten plenty from the 40 acres behind the burnt orange curtain itself. And I've gotten some fans, too, that think I'm a little too negative. But, this is why this season is so special, because I don't really have to be negative. There's not a lot of bad things to say about this team. It's a lot of substance to this team. And I'm not going to say Texas back. I'm not going to go that far and scare people. But I will say that I think this team is for real. And so I've been pretty positive. I have been more positive than most of the fans this year. They're so used to negativity, guys. They've been looking for stuff to complain about. They've been like, hey, what's up with the rotation of wide receivers? I'm like, do you really care about that after you beat Bama? Who gives a damn about the rotation of wide receivers?
No, I get it. I get it and love the truth serum. That's why we have you. We appreciate your time. Anything else? Rod Babers, former Texas corner, and covers them as well with a couple of different media outlets, including The Horn down in Austin. We appreciate it, Rod. Have a great weekend. Have fun.
Hey, thanks you guys for having me on anytime you need me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rod Babers is also a part of what is On Texas Football, at On Texas Football with analysis of UT.
Yeah, so already concerned, even with an improved Oklahoma defense, about how, I'd be concerned for anybody facing the Texas offense, but it's like, oh, all right, now Jatavian Sanders is definitely going to play. Oh, well, dang, there's one more, major issue to have to worry about. And, oh, yeah, now Quinn Ewers is a runner. Okay, so where do we not have to worry about something? I mean, loaded wide receivers. Jonathan Brooks is looking like maybe the best running back in the Big 12. They've obviously got a great offensive line. Quinn Ewers is doing anything and everything, basically, and not having to be a throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns a week type of a guy. But now he's expanding the run game. I mean, and then you have Sark's play calling on top. I mean, it's nasty, man. It's nasty, and then that defense is pretty good too. So. I know that the one theory is the secondary is got some vulnerability to it, but I mean, goodness gracious, outside of that, there's not many holes anywhere that you look for this Texas team. So it's all come together at just the perfect time for this final Big 12 run, and they are rightfully favorites, I think, heading into Dallas coming up here in a couple of days. But I know that Oklahoma's not going to just lay down, and especially with the way last year went, and we're going to see a much better fight this time around. But yeah, Texas looks really good and definitely amongst the cream of the crop that we've seen in college football. And I think depending on what we see from Oklahoma, I've been I don't know that they're that good, like upper tier, but if they show a certain type of performance this weekend and go get a win, then they would absolutely be in that conversation as well. But yeah, this will be a great game.
And I don't know if this is the possibility of them playing twice this year. There's so much more to go. I mean, there's so many games. Yeah, the Kyler Murray year when they Texas won with Ellinger, and then it turns around and Oklahoma was explosive. What was Calcaterra, the tight end, I think, had a big game in the Big 12 championship game rematch. When Rod Babers was there, his freshman year, Texas beat Oklahoma 38-28, and that was their 3rd consecutive win against the Sooners. But then was the national championship year he mentioned. It was 63-14. And then in 2001, Chris Sims had one of those where he was throwing it to the wrong people, 14-3, and then 35-24 in 2002. And not sure if that yet was Adrian Peterson or not. That might have been a little bit later on. I think it was a little bit later on. So there we are. With that, we appreciate Rod Babers and his time being a part of the show.
65-13, you're saying, was Adrian? I can't remember.
No.
Exactly.
I don't yet. I
think he was a year or two later. Yeah. I think, but I remember
Texas
being
got
there.
him. I think maybe 3 out of 4 times he was at Oklahoma, or whenever he eventually left OU. But we'll get into that. I know you can tell me on the chat. That's fine. When we come back, our picks of this weekend's games. 5 games. We'll give you our picks. I'm about to maybe change one of mine before we get to it. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer still in pipe, new facility. In business since 1943, but a brand new facility that's less than a year old, and my goodness, it is amazing. Higher quantities of inventory for you, and they were already incredible at what they did with pipe, steel, metal, and so much more. Heavy equipment where you build things, metal buildings, and more. Location may have changed, but the values have not. It's still important to them to shake your hand, and they don't want you just once. They want you to come back again and again and again. That's how you sustain a business since 1943. In addition to the standard long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut, so you don't have to go pick up the product and then you yourself cut it or get somebody else to do it. You go pick up the length you want and you drive it to wherever you're trying to build something, whether you're a weekend contractor, a weekend warrior contractor, or that's what you do for a living. A 2,500 square foot showroom, over 1,000 new products in stock, welding supplies and hardware. Also, many of the do-it-yourself components in any project or for any project you need. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and also Highway 6 on the east side of I-35, pioneerboys.com.
Call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgan Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgan Ford. Bird Colgan Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We have controversy on 365 Sports. We do the weekly picks, and Levi must have had a rough night at the end of last week. He says that he did not get our picks, but I remember making picks. Garrett, do you remember making picks?
We made some picks.
Paul, Craig?
Yeah, we did. I'm going to find the picks that we did.
All right, so here's the deal. There's a screen that Garrett's about to put up. The numbers at the bottom of the screen are
Texas
incorrect.
and Kansas was the one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, the numbers at the bottom of the screen are not updated.
Well, we can't do that. We can't do that today.
Oh,
remember.
Well, that's good.
We're steam powered today.
So I'm gonna calculate who did what last week, and we'll give you who the leader is. Right before last week, there was 12 and 8 Emory, and then Paul and Garrett were 10 and 10. Craig and I were trying to come out. Yeah. Craig was 10 and 10 too.
I went 4 and 1 last week. So I don't know what you guys did, so I can add that to it.
I went 4 and 1. I had Utah, and they lost. So that was the only thing I believe is the only team that lost. Craig, you remember?
You had LSU and they lost.
I did have LSU, so I was
3 and 2.
Okay. Craig, you remember yours?
Let's see. It's great on air.
Okay.
I went 3 and 2. Yeah.
3 and 2. All right.
Okay.
So
I'll do that math in the break.
Levi, under the gun here. Now, here are the games for this week. We don't have the graphic, but I'm going to look over towards the graphic. The first game at the top is Texas OU, 11 o'clock Saturday at the Cotton Bowl. And everybody but Emory is picking Texas. Emory is picking OU because he's a good friend of Craig's.
Oh, and he's also from Oklahoma.
Oh,
yes,
that's right.
He is.
That's right.
He's biased.
He is.
don't know why I want to hear his name is Emery, like some like old like grandma on a
sounds like
black
some-
and white TV show or something.
Like some, yeah.
I love the name.
Like on Yeehaw.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Hee-haw,
across the
hee-haw.
board, here's my deal with this, and all of us can discuss each one of our picks. But Texas, to me, has just so much explosion. Yes, Oklahoma has some weapons too. There's just something different, and this is not anything that overhyping UT. This is an emotional game that if you haven't been to it, then you know it's crazy. It can flip on an early turnover or something. But I'm taking UT. I just think they have too many weapons. They'll outscore OU, and that's not even if Oklahoma can move the ball enough to get within reason here.
I think this game is actually, because of the weird rivalry thing, going to be a little bit lower scoring than maybe people are predicting. And that doesn't mean I think it's going to be 17-14. I just think that I don't know if it's going to get into like that, 35-31 range. I think it might be a little bit lower than that just because there's a lot of stakes in this one. There's a lot of tension. I think people will be playing up above their station a lot. So I'm going to go with Texas in what I think will be a good game for most of it. I just think they have too much depth that Oklahoma does not have right now.
Yeah, I'm going with Texas. Feel pretty confident in making that pick, but it is Red River, so you never know, and that's why we love this sport. I think Oklahoma's absolutely equipped to pull off an upset should things fall right, but I just think black and white's just not taking into account these wild cards that are unknowns completely. That's to pick Oklahoma. I feel like, well, this would have to happen. And instead of just straight up, who do you think's better? I think Texas is better right now. I think Texas is a deeper, better team, and so not blow them away type of a team, but I do think that Texas is better, and I think that'll show on Saturday.
Garrett, I'm sorry, Jack. Garrett, what was your record last week? Did you?
I was 3-2, I believe.
Okay, all right. We're going to update the scores a little bit later on. At any time when I actually go to pop something with his papers, it's because we have a little bit of a problem here in the studio today that was in here yesterday. It's called a big fly. Garrett, your thoughts, Texas, OU?
I think this is going to be a really good game. Honestly, I feel like Texas has too much talent, especially in the trenches, that they'll be able to pull away in the fourth quarter. But it's one of those where it never matters in this type of game. Throw the records out the window. Things can get weird. But I just think Texas is too deep right now for Oklahoma.
All right, so we take Texas. Emory does play. Put up the big Oklahoma. And
look, I'd be glad to be wrong about this. I'd be glad to be wrong.
Greg's a lifelong Oklahoma fan. Nothing wrong with that. Now, the LSU Tigers, they're a mess. They're giving up just massive amount of points. Ole Miss boat raced them, and then LSU put up a lot of points, but not enough. This game in Missouri, in Columbia, I'm still taking LSU. I just feel like they probably still have just too much, although Missouri has sure been kind of fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I think LSU's got too much offense for this, although Missouri might have the best offensive day of the year because their defense, LSU's defense, is just so bad. But I'm taking LSU in this one. If LSU loses this game, this will probably be the last time I pick them if we put them. If LSU loses this game, we may not put them back up here.
If LSU loses this game, will they get to a bowl game?
I mean, I'm sure they'll squeak their way into one, but it'll be something they're
It'll be a bottom level,
yeah.
Yes, I went LSU originally in this for some of the reasons that you guys mentioned. I just feel like they're more talented in this and that, but I don't know, why default to somebody? I don't know. There's a little something special going on in Columbia right now, and I don't know if it's all just smoke and mirrors or if there's actually something to it, but if you're going to hit LSU, you're going to hit them in the air, and Brady Cook's come off a pretty good game passing last week, and they got some good receivers, and Luther Burden is a dude who, even if they contain him, you put so much focus on him, there's others that can hurt you. So I know that this has, been a little bit of the schedule and just what have you, a little bit of luck. Kansas State was the walk-off field goal, so Missouri almost had the loss there. But I don't know, being in Columbia and LSU's just kind of reeling. The last time I sort of gave LSU the benefit of the doubt, they didn't return that. And so I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. They've got to go prove it to me. So I'm going to say that the magic continues at Mizzou for the time being.
All right, so we go to the next game. And that one is UCLA and Washington State. What a run it's been for Washington State. They had the really nice win, obviously, with a game against Oregon State a couple of weeks ago. They just keep rolling. And here they are. UCLA is like a field goal or so favorite the last time I looked in this game.
Yeah, I'm just a Cam Ward believer, so I'm going to go with them, although UCLA's defense is legit. They're really good. I don't think that you're going to see Cam Ward throw 7 touchdown passes in this thing or create the kind of offense he has in some of the other games. I think I think he's going to make something happen here. I like what they've got going on there at Wazoo, and I'm gonna take them in one of their many vengeance games this year.
Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Cam Ward, and feel like I may not love that I was seeing him at Incarnate Word, and then to see him at Washington State and just be as good as he's been these last couple of years has been awesome. I'm just I'm thrilled by how much exposure he's getting, and that's great. And I totally believe just when in doubt, go with Cam Ward. But I don't know, just something about, I know that there's not some great home field advantage here, but UCLA's at home. I do think that their defense is pretty good. And, Washington State's got to be able to prove that they can run the football, So, like, I think if UCLA is able to stop them from running the football and can kind of focus in and apply some pressure on Cam Ward, now he can go make some magical plays, but I don't know. I just see where that's being a little bit of not, this turning into the high-scoring affair. Now, if it does, you got Chip Kelly on one sideline, and I know that you got a young quarterback, and he's taking some lumps along the way. But, yeah, I don't know. There's just something about UCLA and their defense and their young quarterback that I think they're going to be able to just match up pretty well with Washington State. But I totally get why Wazoo's the wide pick. But, yeah, I'm going with the powder blue here.
Well, they remember they didn't score against Utah, but Utah was at the time pretty good, and of course they took it on the chin last weekend. I'm going to go with the hot team. I'm going to go with the quarterback that maybe makes a play or two extra in the game. UCLA needs that win, though, after the loss to Utah to make sure that they don't, like, all of a sudden disappear. Not that they will, but I'll take Washington State. All right. Then the one, I just changed my pick, and that usually ends up being bad, but Alabama at Kyle Field against Texas A&M.
So you're taking Bama, right?
I am taking Alabama.
You're taking Bama. I'm taking A&M for this reason. They will get so keyed up for this game. They are going to do things in this game that they didn't know, like in their heart of hearts, they never imagined doing, and beat Alabama. Then they will lose a game to a team that they should absolutely not lose to in the next couple of weeks.
That's what they do.
Because that's what they do. So this one, they're going to be locked in. They're trying to wash off that Miami game. They can probably contain Milroe into making him have to throw the ball enough to where they get them off the field. Not going to be a whole lot of points scored in this game. A&M has more weapons. They'll win the game, but that means probably nothing because they will squander it all away later.
Yeah, I'm just riding with the magic of being at Kyle Field and just kind of the feel going into this game as much as anything else. I do think they match up really well. This is not a year where Bama's got the without a doubt talent advantage. Although, you could probably pick some spots where that's still the case. But I don't know. I think A&M matches up pretty well. I think, Max Johnson is a guy that got a lot of experience. So, compared to Milroe, I don't know that there's like just some wide talent gap there either. I don't know. I'm honestly buying into just kind of the feel as much as anything else. And the fact that, Bama is a little bit vulnerable. And this isn't just some juggernaut rolling in necessarily. And even if it is, I think A&M's defense is pretty dang good, especially up front. So, yeah, give me the Aggies at home to get a big win in College Station and see where this takes them with Jimbo Fisher. That would really make the SEC West a really interesting race shaping up if Bama were to take a loss.
The playmaker in this game is Aniyah Smith, right? He is capable of going 80 at any time, taking a kick or a punt return or something else on offense. And so Alabama used to have 3 or 4 of those guys. I don't know who that is, but I'm going to go with Alabama, even though the last time they were at Kyle Field, we know what happened. A dramatic finish to that game with the field goal that was good.
You don't need to act like you're going out on some limb picking Nick Saban in Alabama.
No, I feel like I'm like on my own little rabbit hole.
Really
here.
Not the underdog pick, to be frank with you, but I understand. Yeah.
No, Garrett, you're with me.
I am with you.
Most people are. It's Alabama. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you don't need to explain. It's Alabama. It's not like there's some like little underdog rolling into town.
Oh, I think I think that Alabama is like a massive underdog here and a chip on their shoulder. I'm just kidding.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're poor little upstart Alabama.
Yeah,
they're just hoping they keep just kind of like a moral victory here if they can get within 20.
Look, this is. When they're having a year like this is like, they got bumped from first class one time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you don't have to explain. It's Alabama. Like, you can say it's Alabama, and everybody understands.
And that's probably why I changed my pick. Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think having guys like Jace McClellan come back to Texas, and you look at the situation with the quarterback. I mean, he's from Katy Tompkins. I think that Jalen Milroe will come out and ball out pretty much essentially in front of his family and friends, in front of a home crowd. And also from an Alabama perspective, if you're Nick Saban, can you afford to lose to both teams in Texas, given the recruiting that you're going to have to do going forward?
Yeah, they have lost already to the team out of Austin, and that would be a team out of college. Would that set up next year in the SEC?
Oh, it would be bad
as well. All right, so there's that one. Baylor and Texas Tech. Both teams need a win. This is almost like a mini early season type bowl game, like bowl berth type game. I'm going with Baylor because they're at home. Although if I would have said that because Texas Tech was at home last year, it was 45-17 Baylor. I do think Baylor's picked up some mojo here. I think this is going to be like 36-30 or something like that. Whoever wins the running game, whoever has the bigger game, Brooks or Reese, win this game, I'll take Baylor.
Yeah, I think I'm picking Baylor for one reason and one reason only. Joey McGuire's 1-7 on the road. Baylor may have some renewed confidence. That's the only reason I'm picking Baylor. I don't know if last week means anything yet. I just don't know. Or if that was just a moment in time. Because it could mean something, or it could mean like the year they beat A&M in double overtime, the Dominique Ziegler catch, where that didn't really mean anything for Baylor in that season. They still weren't very good. They just ruined A&M's day and the rest of their season, but it didn't change who they were. Like that's what we need to know about Baylor right now.
All right, Craig.
I'm in the outlier here. I'm the only one. I'm picking Texas Tech, and the reason being is you're right. They suck on the road, or they have under Joey McGuire up until this point. But I like that it's been kind of quiet for them this week. And last year was really loud, right? In terms of the buildup and Baylor and McGuire and all this kind of jazz and the big Saturday night. And now the shoe's on the other foot, but there's just a lot less steam there. I think Tech is locked in and focused. I think that they played a pretty tough schedule up until this point. You can make a case for why they should have a better record than they do, including potentially a win over Oregon. And I know that, it's not a sure thing on any side of the ball necessarily. I do think that they match up pretty well with one another, but this is mostly because I just think that I don't want to overcorrect too hard on Baylor, and because they had a massive comeback last week that, everything's fixed now, they're good to go, everything's better. I'm not sold, and so maybe I'm outthinking myself by overcorrecting too far the other way, but I just need to see more. And you know what? They have not been good in big marquee games at home. The last few of them have been blowouts, whether it was Texas or it was K-State last year, or you can point to the Utah game, not necessarily marquee at night like this one, but they've not been great at home per se. So I don't know.
Their two biggest wins last year were in Lubbock and Norman.
Yeah. And so they haven't had a big home win in quite some time. And I don't know. I just think they're pretty evenly matched, and this will be a tight game, but I give the slight edge to Texas Tech.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, when you don't know these two teams, and you don't know these two teams because they've given you that reason. Tech, of course, has played Oregon. Baylor's played Utah and Texas. So there's a couple of teams that are pretty good. We'll see what happens. Those are the picks. Based on the updates, Garrett, what did you say you were last week?
I believe I was 3-2. I know I lost the LSU
So Emory
game.
and Paul are 14-11. Craig is 13-12. I'm 12-13, and Garrett, you're now 10-15 after the 3-2 week. And we'll have the graphic. No, this is hard. It'd be worse. So no one would be above 500 if we used the spread. It's hard to pick games in the first place, but especially against the spread. So there we are with that.
And typically what you would probably want to do is have like about 5 more games that are a little bit easier, not the top of the line, that could like even that out a little bit, because I think just doing these 5, even just head up, like you said, doing the spread, it would be a nightmare. But they've been tough games. Like a lot of these games have been like your big surprise, like you just can't call it type of games, and that's been fun.
Sir, blah, blah, blah. You guys are costing me money. Garrett, go ahead.
Well, we didn't tell you to do that.
No, I was talking about with the picks, because, Craig, you make a really good point, and that was something that Jack and I had talked about with ours. Do you think we should throw in the 4 new coming schools?
No, I think it should be hard. I mean, we can. I don't care. That's not my. I think it should be hard. I mean,
okay,
look,
yeah.
It's only a 4-game difference through the first 5 weeks or 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah,
we can do that if you want.
No, I mean, the only reason I say is because we could dance it up and dress it up and make it look like it's a lot better because there would be some easier. But like just doing the 5, I do think makes it tough because those are the ones that are the big question mark games. So yeah, I think it's fine, but we're just gonna have to let our egos get bruised a little bit from time to time.
Oh, I mean, I've seen guys who pick against the spread, like Bruce Feldman does that, and he picks a ton of games. And, man, you could go 1-9 easily. You could get smoked pretty quickly.
There's somebody that did who's like, I guess, a national guy, so to speak, and somebody dug up, like, one of his predictions from, I guess, the week prior, and they were like, gosh, who was it? I wish I could remember. But
Andy Staples or something?
I think it was Andy Staples.
Yeah,
like
he
just
had a
one
bad
week. And it was like, hey, how you doing? Like, checking in on you. So, yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But,
all right. Thank you very much. As KCM says, this is not financial advice.
No.
Believe me, let Edward Jones do all of that for you. Camelo, did the Texas OU line go down? Well, we appreciate a lot of you, a bunch of you, feedback on the games we picked and also the ones you're interested in, too.
Yeah, don't know about that question, but I'm sure somebody in chat can answer that.
I'll check it out here in just 2 seconds. But coming up next, we'll have Taylor McHargue, ESPN. He'll tell us about the games. In fact, we just discussed in a few others. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. They're the people that I've counted on a couple of different times, got into a wreck situation and had one occasion the right side of my car get all scratched up, and then on another occasion had another issue that cropped up as well. But both times I took my car on over to Richard Carr, even though I didn't buy from them originally, and I can vouch that their customer service is amongst the best that I've ever experienced, if not the best. And right now, they've got that great customer service on hand no matter what you're looking to do. They will tell you, though, and I will tell you, that the construction out front there on Highway 6 is it's like a movie scene or something, like an apocalypse scene, because there's so much dug up and things being moved around, but they are still there at the place you can count on, the people that you can count on. And because it's a little bit harder to get to them, they are making it easier to get into a new GMC, Buick, or Cadillac. Right now, qualified buyers can save over $7,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s. And qualified buyers can finance for 0.9%. They've got dozens of Sierras on the lot. They've got not only the numbers and inventory, but great pricing and financing to get you in a new GMC Sierra today. And if you're military or first responder, you can also save an additional $500. So there's just one of their new car offerings that you can check out over at Richard Carr. But they also trade for the best, so they have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well in stock. The financing goal there, 100% credit approval. As always, they say yes when others say no. So if you're looking for a pre-owned car, they've got you covered there as well. And as I mentioned at the start, the service department, it's award-winning, and right now they can't be beat on tires, offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. So service your car or truck with the people you can count on at Richard Carr. You can find a lot more information on their brand new, their pre-owned, or their customer service, their service department specials over on the website, richardcarr.com, or you can give them a phone call, or you can just venture on over there in person and talk to many of their great people there awaiting you with that great customer service that they've become known for over the years, 24 years to be exact in Central Texas, all along building a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person. You can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. And we're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40-pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Perhaps the best games in college football this weekend are not far apart. It's Dallas and College Station, Texas OU, and also A&M and Alabama. And then Taylor McHargue has a game, Florida Atlantic and Tulsa down in Boca Raton. He joins us now on 365 Sports. We just have talked a lot about the games I just mentioned. We will get to that as well. Taylor, what's it been like for Tom Herman at Florida Atlantic?
Well, Casey Thompson, their quarterback, tore his ACL against Clemson. And actually, Richardson, the backup that is in for them now, he was the quarterback at Central Michigan when they went to Oklahoma State and gave them fifth. So they've got a capable backup. But, we talked on our show All American this week about Tom Herman's recruited well everywhere he's been. Now, Texas, it didn't work out, obviously, towards the end. But at the Group of Five level, certainly, and when he was an assistant, he has proven time and again that he can accumulate talent. And I think he'll do that at FAU. I don't know where they end up shaking out towards the end of this season. I don't think they're not going to be in a position to win this conference. They should get back to probably a bowl game this year. If they don't, maybe it's just shy of it at a 5-win team, but that'll just be for this year. I think that should be a team out of the American that you should expect to be competitive towards the top third of that conference pretty soon.
Taylor, what are your thoughts on Red River this week?
So I had Oklahoma a few weeks ago against SMU, and Oklahoma, a lot has been made this week on, the video game numbers that Dylan Gabriel's put up and just the stats that they have compiled on the offensive side of the ball. But to me, it really doesn't matter because all of it, with the exception of SMU, was against teams that just flat out are not very good on the defensive side of the ball. And so, dismantling Arkansas State and Tulsa and an Iowa State team that I think you've already seen at this point in the year, I'm not sure what they have to play for. To me, we have not seen enough from Oklahoma to not be concerned about. It was 14-11 going into the fourth quarter against SMU at home. And that's a team that TCU looked far better against SMU than Oklahoma did. So, I don't know. To me, we've seen a lot more from Texas earlier this year, especially with wins at Alabama and then home last week. I know Jalen Daniels didn't play for Kansas, but, man, I think the resume to this point is certainly more impressive for Texas. Now, that being said, Texas has not had to face what you would call a dynamic or elite passer. Dylan Gabriel will by far be the best quarterback they've played to this point in the season. So we'll see. But I do think Texas is the better team. I think they've got more talent top down. I said this week in Austin, if this was a clean game, no turnovers, I think Texas wins this game. For Oklahoma to win, I think they've got to capitalize on short fields, create takeaways, do the little things well, because I do think Texas has the deeper roster.
Yeah, I think that's where I was coming from too. Just like black and white, plain and simple. I think Texas is better, but it's Red River, right, Taylor? And those types of games, you just never know once they get the ball rolling out there.
That's true, and we've seen in the past this game where one team's favored by multiple scores, it almost always ends up being a one-score game. I mean, last year was such an outlier, first year for that new staff at Oklahoma, and Texas took it to them. A lot has been made of that game. It's certainly not going to be that way this year, but I expect it to be close. I do think Texas wins this game. And again, I think it comes down to depth really on both sides. I thought there was an interesting question asked this week. Is there a starter at one of the skill positions on either side, secondary or wide receivers, running backs for Oklahoma that would start over somebody at Texas? And I think that answer is no, which is pretty telling of just the depth and the talent that Texas has accumulated right now. And they're a year ahead of where Oklahoma is going to be. I think this game looks, even more different next year.
So let's stick in the state of Texas, and there's other great games around the country, like Kentucky and Georgia, for example. But A&M and Alabama, I mean, there's a big double dip here in the Lone Star State, OU Texas and A&M Alabama down in College Station. What are your thoughts? I mean, Alabama, it's obviously been a little up and down, but mostly up in the long run. And A&M dealing with that quarterback change. What are your thoughts on Max Johnson and the Aggies and how they perform on Saturday?
Look, I think this is an even match. Max Johnson, if you think about a backup situation, I think A&M had about as good as you could hope for in college football. He had played significant snaps in the SEC, had proven that he was a capable backup. And I think, there's a reason that Alabama is just a 1-point favorite on the road at A&M. Kyle Field's a hard place to play. It doesn't matter if it's an afternoon game like this or clearly at night when A&M won a couple years ago. I think, similar to what we just talked about with Oklahoma, for Alabama to win, for A&M to beat Alabama, they're going to have to create some takeaways. They're going to have to create short fields. What Alabama's going to want to do, clearly, run the football, create that quarterback run game where a lot of their explosive plays come from that and then play action off of that. If A&M can limit explosive plays, create a takeaway or two, that's where it's very similar to what we saw 2 years ago and how A&M sort of instilled some chaos in that game and ended up winning. And I think the recipe is very similar this year. But for Aggies, I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, losing your quarterback and having Max Johnson come in, this was not our season is over. The SEC West, if we look around, is very much open. I don't think there's a clear best team at all in the SEC West right now.
Yeah, Taylor, I've been saying if A&M, wants to finally get through, like, here's the time, like, step it up. Like, all this talent Jimbo's been bringing in, this is maybe the time where you can knock everybody else off and do what you've been trying to do for so long.
I think you're exactly right. And again, to go back to the SEC West, I mean, for A&M fans, look around. You already had the win over Arkansas, but look around at what is happening in the West. LSU, not nearly what we thought they were going to be coming into the year. Ole Miss can't play defense. They play some defense, but they don't play great defense. Alabama, to me, I mean, this is the test. If they beat Alabama, all of a sudden there is a world and a path to where A&M should begin to get their hopes back up, even with Max Johnson at quarterback.
Taylor McHargue with us on 365 Sports. How about what you've seen from LSU that had that momentum, that monumental game early with Florida State, and then just got overwhelmed in the second half? You could always count on them to play good defense, and they're not playing much defense at all.
They're not, and isn't it interesting that Brian Kelly talked about leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU because they wanted it meant more and recruited at a higher level, and right now Notre Dame's recruiting at a higher level and it looks like they're the better team. Obviously, we would for sure be saying that if they had closed out the win against Ohio State, but even still, I think it's been disappointing. And with Brian Kelly and what they've put on the field, you talked about the second half collapse against Florida State. I think it's disappointing their defensive effort against Ole Miss. And clearly the offensive side of the ball, they're going to score on everybody, but I don't think any of us thought that they would have 2 losses to this point in the season before we even get to the halfway mark.
Taylor McHargue, ESPN. Garrett, Garrett's a big LSU fan. It's been tough, Taylor. He's shaking his head. Yeah.
Hey, I get it. Again, this was a team that I very much thought had a chance to be a playoff team coming into the year. And they had an opportunity against Florida State. If they win that game, they're in the driver's seat. And all of a sudden now, they're really going to be fighting just to stay in the top, third of the SEC. I mean, they're 1 or 2 losses away from, now you're talking about this is a middle of the pack LSU team. And how far is that from our expectations for this team coming into the season? But this happens every year. There's always a team that we talk about, hey, this is a potential Final Four team. And then you look up at the end of the year and they're either barely ranked or they're not ranked at all.
Taylor, Baylor and Tech this week. I was at the ridiculous comeback last week in Orlando that Baylor had. Tech is 2-3. They're both 2-3. The seasons have not gone as they planned. Joey McGuire 1-7 on the road. But I mean, is Baylor's comeback a moment in time, or is it something to be, rally them for the rest of the season?
It should be something that rallies them. I mean, that was completely improbable. I thought that Central Florida would close out that game up until they they had the fumble that was returned back the other way with like 6 minutes left in the game. Then it was like, all right, I think they're probably losing this game. This has just turned into a complete collapse. And that's the type of win that you need early in the season for a team that's trying to right the ship. And they very much got that. I think Texas Tech on the other side, that's another team that's a little bit disappointing. Not that, in the same way that with LSU, where we're talking about Final Four expectations for them. That's obviously not the case for Tech. But I do think this was a team that there was a dark horse. Is this going to be maybe a team that sneaks into the Big 12 championship? Is this a 9 or 10 win potential team? Now is this a team that can get to 500 and get to the postseason? Shuck being hurt, obviously a major blow. That poor guy has been hurt, it feels like, every year of his career. But no, I absolutely think this is a game that Baylor should have a ton of confidence coming in. And how good would it feel for Baylor to get this win, get back to 500? Now you get to the halfway mark. And I think expectations were higher than, 500 at the halfway mark. But gosh, 2 weeks ago, if you said, hey, you're going to get to into your 6th game and get back to 3-3, I think every Baylor fan would take that, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, everyone's been wondering, when is Cam Rising going to play? And Whittingham has kind of alluded to it, that maybe. He did an interview, I guess, yesterday in Utah with Bill Riley of ESPN 700 that said he didn't just hurt his knee. He didn't just tear his ACL. He tore his meniscus, MPFL, ACL, and it was a surgery very similar to Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, Hendon Hooker last year with Tennessee, and it has been an excruciating comeback for him. That's the first time he's opened up about it. Now that you know that, Taylor, it's no surprise he's not playing right now.
No doubt. And I think you have to wonder, is there a world where he doesn't play at all this season? Does he either just take the full year, try and get the medical and come back, move on, go to the next level? If it's that bad, at what point does Utah say, with the success that they're having to this point in the season, if this gets into November, is it even worth it? Or do you just ask him, hey, we're just going to have you medical redshirt and let's focus on 2024, whether that's with Utah or whether that's moving on personally. But that's the difference in the college and the NFL game. These schools do not have to disclose the severity of these injuries. And that's why we see it week in and week out on these games where we get, you have to be careful on how you phrase it, but sometimes we're told, information leading into a game. And I remember the Fox broadcast last year where Rising didn't play and they weren't on site and they weren't aware of it. They had a whole graphics package rolling into the game and then Cam Rising doesn't come out to play. You have to be very careful in college of over speculating and not talking about specific injuries, because in college they can just call it a lower body injury and leave it at that. And it's the information is few and far between, and there's some coaches that are better about it and others, like at Utah, where they don't. It's very tight-lipped, and you get very little out of them.
Enjoy the broadcast, Tulsa, Florida Atlantic. Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate your time every Thursday at this time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Taylor McHargue with ESPN and has that Florida Atlantic game. Talked about Tom Herman recruits. He can do that. There's never been a question about that. Back to Cam Rising. He said, I'm ahead of schedule. I'm trying to make sure I can be out there because nobody wants to be out there on the field grinding with those guys more than me. But at the end of the day, it's my body. My body has to recover. There's really not anyone that can say much more besides the best doctor in the world, Dr. El Atraki, I don't know exactly how to say his name, down in L.A. can say. So this is a massive, he blew out his knee. It wasn't, and again, torn ACL's enough, but he blew out his knee, and it's the first time he's opened up about it. And he's always been pretty guarded about anything, even football questions. And I got that from Josh Newman, who we've had on the show before to talk Utah football.
Well, that would make sense as to why it's been so, like, oh, is it this week? Is it this week? Is it this week? Well, now, like, we can stop playing that game. We
now
can
you know.
Just when number 7 rolls out there,
he's out there.
That's the day.
Craig Smoak and Off the Radar is around the corner. Paul's Top 5 is a little over an hour away. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys. We'll have John Hoover on the OU perspective of Texas OU a little bit after 5 o'clock. And this is 365 Sports. Texas Beef House focuses its resources on developing the best Wagyu genetics, which also produces the highest quality of beef. The Duval family, has spent the past couple of decades improving the quality of their beef herd. Taste the difference with Texas Beef House. We have promoted them. A lot of you have bought their product, and if you haven't, man, I tell you what, you need to. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com for more information. Contact them, and there are different type of gift packs that they have available. Samantha Duvall, in fact, promotes a lot of that, whether it's for tailgating or for what you want to eat as a family at dinner or whenever it might be. It's brisket, it's tri-tip, of course, amazing steaks, but also sausage and so much more. One other note about the aged beef difference. Aged beef is not typically available to the public because of the added cost and time. TexasBeefHouse.com, the Duval family, is taking that time and taking that extra cost to make sure you get absolutely the best at Texas Beef House. They age the entire beef and not just the choicest cuts of steak, resulting in an improved texture and flavor for all of the beef you can get from TexasBeefHouse.com, a ranch just outside of Tyler, the Duval family, and TexasBeefHouse.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar, just taking a look at a grab bag of stories from around the world of, well, you guessed it, sports, and sometimes that'll be, college football related, sometimes not. Just all depends on kind of the news cycle and things that I see of interest. And usually on Thursdays, whereas Tuesday can be more of a look back with like TV ratings, as we've been doing for a couple of years now. Thursday is more of a look ahead. But I did want to start from with a story from a few days ago that I realized after the fact on Tuesday night I did not bring up, and I'd wanted to, and that was the passing of Tim Wakefield, Paul, for you in particular, being a Red Sox fan, but the knuckleball, pitcher for the Boston Red Sox for such a long time. I know that you had to have had some thoughts on Tim Wakefield and his passing at age 57. A lot of people with their well wishes for him, and just a sad deal, but an outpouring of support for him, and just wanted your thoughts on his sudden passing.
It is weird how like celebrity deaths kind of all hit you at once. Like Jimmy Buffett, I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan. He passed away, just a month ago, and then Tim Wakefield. That's like, as a Red Sox fan, he is. He's in that, like the free beer club forever kind of a guy. I mean, 17 years with the Red Sox. Everybody in Boston loves him. His starts were so fun to watch. Here's what was great about Tim Wakefield starts. There were two kinds of Tim Wakefield starts. Yeah. There were the knuckleball is going. Yep. It is working.
And quickly.
Or it is, he doesn't have it. The bullpen is cashed. But since he can throw 700 pitches, he's going to be out there the whole time. But he was great, and he was really great most of the times in the playoffs. And it was such an interesting weapon for them to have, because when you go from Schilling and Pedro and Derek Lowe, and then you've got to get ready, for the knuckleball coming at you, I think it really threw teams off. I remember Doug Mirabelli, who was his knuckleball catcher, used to have this gigantic extra large glove so that he wouldn't drop it as much, because it's hard, and it was great. Really
looks
sad.
Like a frying pan.
Yeah, 57 is way too young to go. Cancer is awful, and I wish the best to his family. But yeah, it's sad. I love Tim big Tim Wakefield fan.
Yeah, just 57
Won
years
200
old.
games.
Yeah,
just 57 years old. Passed away on October 1st, and had a seizure as a result from brain cancer. That was eventually what took him. But very sad news there. So I wanted to circle back and mention that and get Paul's thoughts on Tim Wakefield's passing. So elsewhere going on, you've got some college football news in that, as you mentioned at the start of the show, I just wanted to circle back around to, but Gus Malzahn has agreed to a contract extension through the 2027 season, raised his salary previously to $4 million years on July 1st. That's when they originally agreed to this, but for the public release, that just came out today. So it goes from $4 million to eventually $5.5 million in 26 and 27. So he gets more money, also gets an extra deal as that will go through 2027. So just firming things up there and getting him, especially after the release, as you mentioned, of the USA Today chart, and he was pretty low on there, and UCF's like, oh no, wait, we renegotiated this. Here he is, and he's at a better spot. So yeah, just circling back to that.
Do you think that announcement came out because of the list that came out?
I absolutely do. If you agreed to it back then, and it's not like a big controversial deal or anything, but I mean, if you agreed to it back in the summer and you just hadn't crossed T's and dotted I's, that's one thing. But I do think that just the timing of a list coming out this week that has all of the coaching salaries on it.
It makes me also wonder if that list had been double checked.
if he did that in July, if that list just was when did it?
No, but they didn't announce it. Then it's not there on the list.
How would that list have known?
Yeah,
it's not a private school where they have to like go and look for information. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I do think that there's very odd timing if that's just all coincidental.
It's coincidental.
Yeah.
No.
So I mean, I think that there's very much a deal going on there, and you know what? It's just out there now, and it's public, and so that's all there is to it, and all that matters. And so he's going to be hanging around on paper. And hopefully on the sidelines for a while for UCF. And especially why I think it's not coincidental is this would not have been the week to announce that. Not after what just happened last Saturday.
You're right.
Hey, we just blew 35-7 lead in our Big 12 home opener. Let's announce his contract extension like 2 days later. That was not
it was
probably
kind
in the
of
cards.
like a melting pot of, okay, the list was out that said he was the lowest paid FBS coach in America. And yet they come off this disastrous ending, and yet they want to make sure they realize he's a $4 million a year guy.
Yeah, so there's also a lot going on off the field. I haven't been able to delve as much into the Mel Tucker, but he did say that there is some new evidence, and I guess you guys, have you read enough about it, Paul? Had you circled back on it at all to kind of fill in the blanks here? Because I'm going to get to Pat Fitzgerald, and that's more of what I had seen.
I sent you the image of what the attorney is saying about Brenda Tracy.
So his attorneys are alleging that she has even admitted to some of this stuff. Now, I'd have to see the rest of these things to see why they believe she's admitted to it, but that she had another similar relationship with another married coach. Now, that Brenda Tracy's got hundreds of text messages. They're trying to, release these to show that Mel Tucker did not sexually harass her. The thing about sexual harassment is it's in the eye of the harassee, not the harasser. And A, and B, Mel Tucker still should have been fired because it was stupid to even begin a relationship with the sexual harassment and rape counselor person. So that one, and a vendor at that. So no matter what she did, if he did this and she was the apparel rep from Nike, stupid idea. Just a bad idea that you shouldn't do and you can't do at the university level. And so that's why he's fired. Who it was just makes it worse.
Yeah.
But there are some text messages that have been, that are not out there in the public space yet. I'm sure that they could be, but that kind of show what their relationship allegedly was, according to Mel Tucker. So there's a lot of information we don't know about how this even got this far. That's my biggest question, is Mel Tucker really this dumb, which, I mean, still it's dumb, or what are we not seeing here that he would go down this path? Where
did they get the text messages from? Because I don't think they subpoenaed it yet.
It's metadata. I mean, and if he hasn't deleted them, or whoever else, this other person.
He admitted to deleting them because he said he gets so many texts. She admitted to deleting them and only gave a few of the texts. And you wonder if somebody who doesn't like her, that maybe knows her, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that works.
I don't know about all that. Mel Tucker, though, did send a 106-page letter providing this new evidence to Michigan State, their interim president, their board of trustees, this morning. So there, was an administrative hearing going on that was relating to that and getting underway. And so there's just a messy back and forth that's going to be going on there. But that was the latest development there. And since that's not going to be something we probably bog down on and talk about too much without developments, that's an update there, as is this on former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald, who filed a wrongful termination lawsuit today against both Northwestern and their president, Michael Schill. He's seeking more than $130 million in lost earnings, as well as that price tag would come with reputational and punitive damages. He alleges he was unlawfully fired for cause back in early July after they had just announced that he was going to be suspended for a couple of weeks. This all ties back to the university-led commissioned hazing investigation. So they found that there was some hazing that went on, and there was some corroborations to some of the stories, but there was also the question of how much actual evidence there was that for him to be fired for cause, and was that right? And so now that's the battle they're going to have there. So two pretty high-profile Big Ten institutions with recent coaching firings amid controversy that are now going to be seeing these play out in court probably at some point or another. But, yeah, that's the latest salvo or lobby back from Pat Fitzgerald, a $130 million plus lawsuit against Northwestern and President Michael Schill. So we'll see where that goes. And I am not a legal expert, but we might have to have our sports law guy, Dan Lust, or something back on at some point with some of these cases because they're starting to stack up a little bit. Also, found it very interesting. You know, we talk about realignment and, you know, how quickly things can happen and all of that. And it was pretty amazing to see the Big Ten drop a redone schedule, and not only for what they had released back in the summer, but for like the next 5 years. Did you guys see this? Like they just like had this bad boy ready to go with Oregon and Washington and UC.
I saw the schedule. Yeah,
not UCLA, but yeah, USC and UC. Actually, yes, USC and UCLA. It seems like they were already been in for like a couple years now, but with all of the new parties joining, so there's been a couple of tweaks, and I don't have enough time invested yet where I've been able to cross-check enough about it, but pretty amazing how quickly they were able to put that all together, given how many times we talk about scheduling. And it almost makes you wonder, like, do they have a hint? No, because they wouldn't have dropped it back in the summertime. But if you are interested, the new revamped schedule for 24, 25, 26, and 27 is now out for Big Ten teams. That includes all of the new booties, as our friend Q used to say. But USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and it's just there's just a lot though to consume. Like you kind of have to take it one team at a time, which I know we don't have the time to do here, but. What do y'all think? Just as this sort of settles in,
give us one. You have in front of you?
I got Michigan in front of me.
All right, Michigan.
All right, Michigan next year is going to play Michigan State, Minnesota, Northwestern. They'll also play Oregon and SC at home. So that'll be a couple of the highlights to that schedule. They'll go to Washington.
Okay.
And obviously to Ohio State as well. But yeah, they'll play.
So they'll play 3 of the 4.
They'll play Oregon and Southern Cal at home, and they'll get Washington on the road.
That is a Michigan. Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, and USC
That's
on the
5
schedule.
bangers.
That is.
What do you call those, Garrett?
Bangers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who knows what Michigan State's doing at that point? Like who they've hired or where.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah. You never know.
All right, let's go another team, Craig. What USC?
I got USC right here.
All right.
You're gonna love this, Smokey.
It's Nebraska, I'm sure.
Yeah, they at home against Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. On the road against Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, UCLA, and Washington.
So they're not going to play Ohio State.
No.
Okay. All right.
That's the welcome.
Somebody probably with the algorithm is going to play like everybody. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC, Oregon, Washington. It might be Nebraska, and they probably deserve it.
Okay, Nebraska schedule, when I can find it. Indiana, Iowa, Ohio State, Purdue, and USC on the road. Illinois, Rutgers, UCLA, and Wisconsin at home.
It's not. I mean, that's manageable if you could ever just be good. You could go 5-4 on that or somewhere around that neighborhood if you're just any good.
So this is no divisions, right? 18 teams, and it's their flex. There's a particular name for it, but their flex schedule model. And there's a lot of things built in, like protected rivalries, and they're trying to maintain as much balance as possible. You can also be flexible with the maneuver in the games, but there was history taken into account. There was competitive taken into account, and I'm going to dive further into that tonight. So maybe break it down a little bit better, like next week sometime, because it's a lot. I mean, they just released 4 years of schedules with 18 teams just like today. So very interesting to kind of pour through that, and a lot of fun, I would imagine, as well for everybody involved to see, like, with all these new teams and road trips and things like that.
I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, even though it is a big change.
And it will be when the Big 12 has theirs, whenever that is.
Yeah. So there you go. The new Big 10 schedule for the next 4 years is out conference-wise if you want to check that out.
Man, you know who got the short of this thing? It was Michigan.
That's a damn good schedule, the one that we read off a second ago.
It's like the Big Ten. It's like, all right, look, there's probably going to win it 3 years in a row here. There's only one school we have allowed to do that, and that's Ohio State. We gotta nip that in the bud.
Yeah, so it's the Flex Protect, my Roman numerals here, 27.
Sounds like an insurance plan.
Yeah, Flex Protect 27 model is what the exact wordage was for that. But yeah, they had to go back to the drawing board basically because you had, all of a sudden Oregon and Washington rolling into town, and so they did that. But there are 12 guaranteed protected matchups that will be played annually. So I think this part of it you guys will find interesting. Illinois Northwestern, Illinois Purdue, Indiana Purdue, Iowa Minnesota, Iowa Nebraska, Iowa Wisconsin, Maryland Rutgers, Michigan State. Okay, now we're getting to like more of probably what most people know. Michigan, Ohio State, no surprise there. Minnesota, Wisconsin. And then for the new teams, Oregon, Washington will be protected, and UCLA, USC will be protected. That makes a lot of sense. So there you go. Those are all the guaranteed protected matchups. There are 12 of them with this new 18-team format.
I want to go back to Fitzgerald for just a second.
Sure.
The attorneys who are representing the players who claim that they were harassed or hazed or whatever, sexually assaulted, they then came out with a statement, I'm paraphrasing this, that they're okay. We were trying to make this against the institution, but Fitzgerald's lawsuit might be against some of those claiming the allegations. And now the attorneys representing the players are going, oh, okay, we were trying to make it not personal. You've made it personal. Game on. That'll be interesting to see how that eventually plays itself out.
Yeah, Paul, you have any thoughts on that before we?
I just think that Pat Fitzgerald needs to tread lightly here. I don't feel like because look, work out whatever settlement or whatever. I just know from our past experience, like Art Briles and his legal team dug in because they were trying to get him every red cent and try to get him back in coaching, and he got a ton of money, and that's fine, except because of the way that he navigated it and dug in so hard on the narrative. That's what's cost him ever getting back into coaching, is not that he got paid before. It's the way that he dug in because of the legal strategy that they took to make sure that he was protected on all their other fronts. And I would caution Pat Fitzgerald, if he wants to avoid that, then he needs not to dig his heels in so hard. And when you get your settlement, which he will get a settlement, I'm sure, when you get your settlement, acknowledge that you are the head coach. These things happen under your watch, and
he wants the money that he's losing now, but also his ability he can't work again.
Yeah.
It's the future earnings as well.
But yeah, so
he's a young guy.
Yeah, he could maybe navigate through it because other people have, but you have to be able to, in a public relations sense, say, look, I understand. Like, I did not personally oversee this. This was not directed by me. All those things, if you can prove those out. But it happened. It happened frequently under my watch. And that, as a head coach, I accept as a failing. That's what you have to say. It did not ever come out of Art Briles' mouth. And that is why he has become so toxic, because those things never came out of his mouth.
Yeah, and then by the time they could have, it was probably a bit too late at that point in time. But, yeah, I mean, that's going to be, along with the Mel Tucker situation, a legal issue that's going to have to play its way out, but obviously very complicated and a big deal for the institutions and all of the people involved. So, yeah, a couple of big legal cases, head coaching legal cases stacking up now in the Big Ten. All right, so a final few things here. Baseball yesterday. How about the sweeps, guys? Do you like sweeps? Because all four of the contests in the wild card round were 2-0 sweeps. The Rangers beat the Rays. The Twins eliminated the Blue Jays. The D-backs eliminated the Brewers. And the Phillies eliminated the Marlins. And so now that sets up games for Saturday that will be coming up. The Rangers and Orioles will get underway. We'll also see the Astros get underway against the Twins. But also Phillies, Braves, Diamondbacks, Dodgers. Don't care too much about Saturday games, but just thoughts on the way that the wild card round played out. Anything particular stand out to you guys?
That no one put up a fight.
No,
like it was just.
What the Rangers have done to the Rays in the postseason historically has been like that's who they've owned. And the first time in 12 years they've won a series. But yeah, I didn't even watch a couple of. I had it on. Obviously the Rangers we were watching, but yeah, it just seemed like it's come and gone.
Yeah,
like it's over.
I'm excited. There's a lot of young, cool players that have made it through. The Rangers are all kind of that right now.
Yeah.
But Corbin Carroll and the Diamondbacks,
first guy I thought of.
Awesome. I mean, that dude can ball. He is so much fun to watch. I love Corbin Carroll. So getting to see him play against the Dodgers will be good. I mean, of course, I think this is all one big contest to lose to the Braves in 5 games, but because their lineup is so lethal. But you never know. You never know who gets hot at the right time. So
the Rangers were slumped into the end, right? Had a chance to clinch it, and guess what? They turned around and showed some balls because of how they played against Tampa. Now, whether they can do it against Baltimore remains up in the air.
Yeah, so now down to the final 8, and you'll have the Twins with Carlos Correa facing his old team in the Astros, and then also the Rangers facing off with the number 1 seed in the Orioles, but the possibility there for an ALCS of Houston versus Texas.
Still
Can
there.
you imagine the bad blood that there would be there? Then Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Phillies, Braves, all those should be great as well. So, yeah, that'll get underway this weekend.
Before we go, it appears that and there are rumors on Twitter, there are reports on Twitter, TMZ is saying it, that the great Dick Butkus has passed away at 80 years old.
Oh, okay.
He was one of those that Super Bowl radio rose. Guys like Ditka, Butkus, Nitsky, some of the old school guys with that wounded, what was it called? The Wounded Warriors amputee flag football game. And oh my goodness, some of the great names that play. Those guys, they could still play today, but it's a different game for those just pure middle linebacker type players.
Yeah, and that's going to lead me into this in just one second. But Jacksonville State at Middle Tennessee tonight, Florida International at New Mexico State. That was last night. Tonight, Sam Houston at Liberty. That'll be 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Western Kentucky at Louisiana Tech. 7 p.m. on ESPN. So a couple of college games there, but with the Dick Butkus news, tonight the Bears playing against the Washington Commanders. Your Amazon Prime NFL game, the Bears in search of their first win, and now with perhaps some, just legendary motivation with the passing of Dick Butkus, I don't know, but taking on the 2-2 Washington Commanders. So that's 7:15 on Amazon Prime. So loaded up with a lot of sports going on, and there's a few things off the radar.
He was an actor too, wasn't he,
Yeah,
Butkus?
yeah.
Yeah.
He was definitely in a few things.
Deacon Jones, some of those old former players that Pete Thamel adding to this, Craig, Jalen Daniels doubtful for the game against UCF on Saturday, week to week with back tightness. So Jason Bean appears as if he'll start again in their game against the Knights.
Yeah, I mean, he's capable, but that's just not good news now and moving forward. I mean, you're talking about back tightness and how tricky backs can be and just how sudden that was, right? I mean, all of a sudden he's just out of the game last week versus Texas, scratched before the game started, and I don't remember really hearing too much about that. So, yeah, it's a mysterious situation about the extent of that and what they could be looking at, but not good news that he's missing time. So, yeah, that's unfortunate, and that might be a break for UCF because they might get John Rice Plumlee back here pretty soon. Not sure, maybe this weekend. Not sure how the percentages are working right now, but yeah, tough blow for KU for sure.
When we come back, John Hoover. Thank you, Craig. Off the radar, John Hoover covers Oklahoma. His thoughts about the Red River rivalry. This is 365 Sports. You want a pizza chain that's growing, as fastest growing pizza chain in America, Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in Waco, owned by Bob Mock, who has been a part of the pizza business for a long, long time. Great guy. He's also very much involved in the community, as you'd like to see local businesses. And Marco's Pizza, pizza lovers, get it. Go to marcos.com for the specials of just today. But a lot of them are specials every day. What the pizzas you want, whether it's 1 topping, 2 toppings, or 3 toppings, or what they call the Magnifico, which is a ton of whatever you want. For example, pepperoni or sausage, or pepperoni and sausage where you can't even see the pie. You just see nothing but the ingredients. Sandwiches, salads, drinks, more. They have it. It's Marco's Pizza. 5 locations, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, marcos.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person, you can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. We're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40 pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, shop our great selection of brand new Ram trucks designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Come by and see our large selection today or browse online at AllenSamuelsDCJ.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
John Hoover, All Sooners on FanNationSI.com, AllSooners.com, joins us on 365 Sports with Paul and Craig. I'm David. And John covers Oklahoma, the state as well. And thanks for your time. What is the confidence level after last year's 49-0 and what Oklahoma appears to have done so far this year? John, thanks for your time today.
Hey, guys. Apologies for the sounding like I'm under the weather because I'm struggling with what's lingering as a summer cold. So we'll get through this together. It's interesting. It's the number one topic of the Oklahoma Sooners beat is their confidence level. How much of a paper tiger have they been when it comes to facing one of the easiest schedules in all of college football? Now they're 5-0, 2-0 in the Big 12, and they lead the nation in scoring margin. They're one of the top 3 teams in the country in scoring, and they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country in scoring defense. They're kicking some butt. But they've not, let's be honest, they've not faced anybody like Texas. And that's what this is. It's like a one-game season. It's literally for Oklahoma, not necessarily for Texas because they played Alabama, but for Oklahoma, it's one of their least attractive schedules they've ever played because Castiglione has always been, and worked closely with Bob Stoops, has always been one of those guys who want a premier opponent in here or on the road every year. And because the Georgia game got bumped by the joining of the SEC, they were able to just cobble together a game against SMU, and that was their best opponent, SMU. And so there's a lot of trepidation on the fan base's part, knowing that Texas, ranked number 3 in the country, is by far the best team they faced.
So I would say, John, that the biggest difference between Texas and Oklahoma right now is, probably that Texas has more depth, where Oklahoma has some guys that have a lot of talent and potential. Texas has more established depth. How do they keep that depth from being a factor on Saturday?
That's interesting you would say that. I would have said the other way around.
Oh, okay.
And I'm probably wrong because what I'm gauging my depth, my assessment of the depth is last year's team where they had no depth. So Oklahoma has really, really established good competitive depth. That's their buzzword, but dating all the way back to spring football, guys. Competitive depth. We have competitive depth. What that means is you got a bunch of guys playing the same position, and that has borne out at receiver, at safety, not necessarily on the offensive line, but at running back, at a lot of different positions. So Oklahoma's depth is so much better that I'm probably being fooled to think it's better than what Texas has. But frankly, you're probably right. Texas has better depth. How does Oklahoma deal with that? I think they've gotten okay. So they lost their starting safety, Reggie Pearson, transfer from Texas Tech, and they lost their starting cheetah linebacker, Justin Harrington, senior, fifth-year senior, junior college guy. And they go to Cincinnati, and they almost shut out Cincinnati because they rotated guys in who hadn't necessarily played those positions before, and those guys played great. That's what they've been. That's what Venables is known for, is building so much depth that guys, when they get hurt or they have to miss a game for one reason or another, have to step out for a play or two or a series, they put the next guy in, and the next guy is just as good. So, again, historically at Oklahoma and at Clemson as defensive coordinator, Venables had that reputation. He's just now starting to get those guys as a head coach.
When it comes to the skill guys, I mean, Texas has seemed like an all-star cast. There's not a lot of holes there. I know for Oklahoma, there's been a bit more turnover, and there's still like your Drake Stoopses and your Jaleel Farouks and guys like that. But both at running back, wide receiver, tight end, seems like there's a lot of like fresh, guys and new names that are trying to establish themselves. What have been your thoughts on just how the skill positions have sort of panned out and who has emerged in those groups?
That's the big thing to me is what the wide receiver group has done, led by the man himself, Bob Stoops' son, Drake Stoops, right? Sixth-year senior, possession receiver, inside slot receiver, guy that's just a leader, is like a coach, literally like a coach on the field. That's not overstating it. He's back, right? He's got 80 career catches. Jaleel Farouk, I think, had 37 catches last year. He's back. He's a guy that came into that Texas game last year and ran some wildcat quarterback and took some jet sweeps. And they tried to do what they could, but they just didn't have a quarterback for that game. They couldn't figure out what to do. So those two guys are back. Everybody else, every other receiver that they have, nobody, not one guy had more than 3 catches in his career. And that was from a walk-on. Okay, so the receiver core, all we asked about all preseason long, all early in the season, all off season, hey, who's going to step up and play receiver? Who's going to lead this team in catches? Who's going to be your guy? Who's going to be your top, 3, 4, your 2 deep, your top 6? A month into the season, guys, we're looking at this thing going, holy crap, who's going to lead this team in receiving? There's so many of them. There's 5, there's 6, there's 7 guys. Every week, somebody new steps up. Last week, you saw Brandon Thompson, the transfer from Texas, come out and catch a 54-yard pass. Just in terms of sheer numbers, this is interesting. In yards, catches, and touchdowns, they are led by 3 different guys. So that tells you right there, Dillon Gabriel is really, really comfortable and really confident spreading the football.
How much from 49-0, obviously wrecked last year because it was so one-sided. You discussed kind of the scenario. How much in certain rivalries the head coach has to beat the biggest rival? I know it's only year 2 for Venables, but how important would that be?
It would be enormous, absolutely enormous. If they go out and they lose 38-35 on a walk-off field goal or something like that, I think the fans, I think the boosters, the big money donors, so to speak, are going to walk away from this thing saying, okay, that's a lot better. We're making progress. Now, next year, you got to win. Right? That's one of those things where this year you better show some progress. You better show a pulse. Next year you better win.
That kind of says it, doesn't it?
Yeah. John, if it's a blowout again, does it do you any good to change coaches you're going to the SEC?
Yeah. No. Venables is their guy. They're not going to change coaches. As long as Castiglione is the guy that's doing the hiring, frankly, he has 100% changed the culture. This defense is so much better than anything Mike Stoops rolled out there the last few years he was here, or that half a year that Ruffin McNeil filled in for him, or anything that Alex Grinch put out on the field. This defense is so much better, so much more depth, so much more athletic, so many more big 300-pound guys. And then you take those guys and put them in the SEC. That's going to be your only chance to compete, is to have that defense that you can count on year in and year out. I think that's what Venables' real task is building that defense that you can actually hang something on. And then, hey, if you get a number 1 quarterback or you get a first-round draft pick transfer or something like that, then you can get an offense that can help you win a championship or at least chase a championship. But that defense defense travels, guys. You know that. And so that defense has got to be something they hang their hat on. And Venables has built the culture already, has already changed the culture. You look at the number 4 recruiting class in the country last year, number 7 so far this year. He's doing it with defense. So that's what Joe Castiglione wanted, is for somebody to come in here and finally say, okay, we can play some defense again at Oklahoma.
John, any thoughts, or has there been really anything to, this being the last Big 12 send-off? I mean, I know there was the talk about Sankey will be there, and, obviously your mark will not and all that, but anything surrounding that's part of the storyline of this being the final Big 12 hurrah for Red River?
No, not really. Venables talked a long time ago, back in the spring, about we're exiting spring and now we want to turn our attention toward winning a conference championship or something like that, is the way he phrased it. And he talked about winning. Oh, it was that Big 12 media days where he came back strong and said winning our final Big 12 championship. He wants to go in and say we won the last time we were in the Big 12. So I think the winner is the clear favorite. I think Texas right now is the clear favorite, but the winner of this game, as we all know, isn't necessarily the one that's favored. So it's interesting that the last 4 times Texas has been favored, they've won this game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just, I don't know, that whole your mark versus Sankey thing right now. Couple of guys that are having a contest, shall we say? And right now Sankey's coming out looking better, I think, because nothing against the Butt Bowl, nothing against Baylor, Texas Tech, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a good game. That's always fun. But if you've got 2 top 12 teams in your city where you don't have to travel, why would you not go to that game if it's anything other than just being petty?
Well, there's some of that. And I tell you what, they're still a part of the Big 12, no matter if they're like their entire body's out the door. It is still a chance for the Big 12 to have something special, depending on which one of these teams continues, if they do keep winning.
If one of them wins a national title, that's technically a boon for the Big 12. Yeah. So I mean, they're part of the conference till they're not, and right now they very much are. So yeah, it's kind of a weird deal and kind of petty, like you said. But
John, do you have a favorite big? I'm not sure how many of these games you've covered. We've all covered a handful and been to them. Is there one in particular you remember the most?
I'm so glad you asked me, Smokey. Yes, and this has nothing to do with the game or the situation. This is my 20th consecutive Red River rivalry. I mean, first of all, if you're in my shoes and you grew up where I grew up and had the situations going on that you had in my life, you look at that and you say, how the hell did somebody come out of that and get to cover 20 Red River rivalry college football games? It's incredible. So very blessed to be around this situation for as long as I have, and have the people around me who have gotten to, put me in this position. Very happy and very lucky to be where I am. My favorite story is 2004. That was the game where it was, I want to say it was like 59 degrees, drizzling the entire day from the time we woke up till the time we left the fair. It was drizzling. Vince Young was the Texas quarterback. Adrian Peterson was the the Oklahoma running back, right? 44 flings, was a 45-yard run down the right sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody remembers the game, 12-0 shutout. What I remember is hand-delivering 2 Fletcher's Corny Dogs to my nephew, who had been out there since 5 a.m., didn't get a chance to eat breakfast. He was in the Pride. He was playing trumpet in the Pride of Oklahoma, the band. And I said, have you, what was your day like? He said, I'm starving. I said, let me go get you some corn dogs. I went and got him some corn dogs down there on the field in the end zone. 2 for me, 2 for him. We shared a corn dog and then watched Oklahoma win the game 12-0.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you have a state fair process that you do to make sure that you hit all the check marks before you leave?
We usually get in about 8 a.m. We'll have a corn dog in each hand by 8:30. And then it's 10 hours in the press box. And when we leave, we walk down the midway and we get the sweetest, most disgusting fair food that you've ever seen. Whatever it is, whether it's fried Oreos, deep fried cheesecake.
Stop.
I'm all about it, man.
Fried Oreo.
Yeah,
I've heard of that.
John, we did a game when Baylor and Texas Tech played there. one year it was like they were trying to do a game each week at the fair. And so I was doing the pregame show, and they said, hey, do you want to try some of the fried food? So they took me over this area, and I had like a bite of a deep fried Twinkie, a deep fried Oreo, deep fried Dr. Pepper, something else that was really like deep fried bacon, which is kind of like a bridge too far in and of itself. And I remember thinking like, oh, this food tastes really good. This is wild. But then 10 minutes later, I wanted to die. Like, I was like, dude, is there a cardiologist here? I need to see someone. This is not what you should do with your life.
Yeah, no, that's a place to go get that kind of stuff. And it's fun. It's a great atmosphere. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the next one this Saturday. John Hoover, SISooners.com. Appreciate the time on Oklahoma and the perspective, and gave us a couple of things from their side of point of view, and that's why we have them on. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exhilarating, start to that game, just with the crowds and both of them into it, and then the bizarre, crazy nature of that game and what the tale will be this time around. We'll see once the ball kicks off, but it's not necessarily always what you expect, Red River, that's for sure. And so. Last year was obviously just ugly, and it's certainly going to be more competitive this time around, which will be nice for those of us just wanting to watch a good game. But yeah, it's going to be great, and I still have no hesitance in picking Texas, but would love to be wrong, as you all know. But yeah, I think that the Oklahoma schedule thing is definitely a big part of if they can get through this game. And with the start that they had, I mean, that was one of those, like, how could this year go? Well, look at that schedule. Like, you beat Texas and just a couple of those other games that are kind of tight, and you could be sitting really, really pretty. And so this is easily the biggest game on their schedule. Whereas with Texas, you could say, well, it was Alabama, and you get through them, and now it's definitely Oklahoma. But yeah, there's going to be some great fallout from this one.
When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, Cowboys on the road against the 49ers, a team that's been a thorn in their playoff side. And, of course, there's some great memories of these two. That is next, and this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco, a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded with great brands of cigars. Cohiba, Padron, Ashton, Artur Fuente, Romeo and Julieta. You can go on. My Father, that's the name of a cigar brand. And then, of course, my favorite for a lot of reasons, Rocky Patel, whether it's the Torpedo Edge Light, the Connecticut, and or other Rocky Patel brands that you may like too. It is a phenomenal place if you smoke cigars or buy for somebody who does. And they have all the accessories for cigar smokers. The humidor that you could put 50 to 100 cigars in, or one that maybe is a smaller travel pack when you're on the go. And the torch lighters, the cutters, the punch, all of that to get your cigar ready for you to smoke it. And then on top of that, they have CBD products, including Vita Dreams, which is a gummy that you can take at night. You kind of learn of what you want, whether it's one or a half of one or a little bit more than that. And it helps you have a more restful, peaceful, you fall asleep and you wake up and, man, you feel so much more rested because you didn't toss and turn. It also has for bad days. It's a THC product for those who have chronic pain, who go through a lot of pain every single day to kind of calm it down for a certain amount of hours. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne, just off of Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola, Cowboys and 49ers, man. Maybe the best game of the year. Who knows? You know, you have other games and teams, of course, that are fantastic right now. Cowboys bounce back after the disastrous trip to Arizona to hammer New England and also Bill Belichick, and the 49ers just keep grinding people into ashes. Mickey, thank you very much. I know it's this week. I know it's about this year. I know it's about maybe down the road you might play them home or away in a playoff game. But when I think of San Francisco and Dallas, I mean, my goodness, could you not go on for 3 hours or 4 hours about the memories of playoff games?
Yeah, you're exactly right, because I was in the middle of writing my column, and I'm going, I think I'm getting too long here. Because you're right. You know, we can go back. Gosh, you can go back to the early 70s, right, when they met in the playoffs a couple of years in a row. 81 when they met in the playoffs, the NFC title game, the catch game, 92, 93, 94 in the NFC title games. Yeah, it's been pretty memorable, and including the last 2 playoff games that, you know, I think everybody remembers, obviously, that San Francisco eliminated the Cowboys, but they were close games, a 6-point game and a 7-point game. So, they've had some very memorable playoff games over the years.
Mickey, this I want to say this team is difficult to get a read on because, you know, they're clearly very good, but the games have been so strange. The 3 wins that they've had. This will be the first time that they're playing an opponent that look, if they do beat them 31-3 or whatever it is, then holy cow, but that's probably not going to happen. So maybe you'll get a better read on who the Cowboys are all overall, right?
You might get a better read on what the Niners are too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is you know, I'm pretty amused that, you know, it's like, well, San Francisco has this and this and this, and they're undefeated, and, you know, what are the Cowboys going to do? Well, I'm thinking in San Francisco, they're starting to think, well, the Cowboys are 3-1, and they've averaged 31 points a game just like us. You know, what are we going to do? So I think it's both ways. You know, we keep hearing about Deebo Samuel and Brock Purdy and, you know, everybody, but Christian McCaffrey. Well, you know, have they heard about Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, CeeDee Lamb, even Tony Pollard and, you know, Dak Prescott. So, yeah, I think it's kind of a delicious clash of 2 teams, and, you know, we'll see who ends up playing the best. And as David mentioned off the top, what implications whoever wins might have down the road if both of them end up in the playoffs.
Yeah, it used to be that way before parity took over in the NFL. You knew that San Francisco, Dallas in the early 90s, mid-90s, the winner of that game probably would host the playoff game. Not that it always mattered if you hosted it or not because of what Dallas did in 92. Mickey, why and how is Brock Purdy so effective?
I think because of the fact that he's not asked, forced, let's put it that way, to score a lot of points. Generally, because of their defense, they're not struggling playing from behind. And he's got some pretty good players along with him, with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, Ayuk. I think it's a pretty good team game that kind of keeps him from having to scramble from behind to win games. I mean, I saw this the first 4 games this year for San Francisco. McCaffrey's had 100 yards and a touchdown, 100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown in each game, which is the first time someone's done that since DeMarco Murray in 2014, if you can imagine that. And the fact that, they've won 7 consecutive regular season games, scoring at least 30 points. So when you're able to beat teams that bad, you don't have to ask too much of your quarterback. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't played well, because he has, and he's awfully efficient. And it's really hard to play a game and complete 20 of 21 passes like he did this past game. But here's the other thing, and I think this gets overlooked way too much in the NFL. This guy played 4 years of college ball at Iowa State. There's too many quarterbacks that come out after 1 good year or 2 good years, and they haven't played enough football, and they get into the NFL and they get overwhelmed because it's a different game. And so, the key thing is, and look, same thing with Dak Prescott, right? He played 4 years at Mississippi State, started a lot of games, had Mississippi State ranked number 1 in the nation. These guys played a lot of college ball, and that's not what usually happens now these days with these college quarterbacks coming out to make money.
Mickey, what do you make of the Cowboys' issues in the red zone?
Well, I wrote about it today, and it reminded me of an old quote, because their problem is execution, right? And remember back in '76 when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in their inaugural season, and someone asked John McKay during that 0-14 season what he thought of his team's execution, and he said, "I'm all for it."
Yeah.
So yeah, if you go back and look at the mistakes they've made, and they're not made by the other team, it's of their own volition that they penalties, drop passes, a pass into the end zone that ruled it looks like it's interference. It's ruled interference, and then they pick up the flag. Or you got the running back running into the quarterback. Just little things like that keeps them from scoring in the red zone touchdowns and having to settle for field goals. And, you guys have heard me say this for umpteen years. The more field goals you kick in an NFL game, usually the closer you are to losing, because you're leaving 4 points on the field. And even this last game, wiping out New England, they kicked 2 field goals for 23 yards. You can't do that. You got to score touchdowns. But a lot of it is execution. They just, for some reason, get down there and turn the red zone into the twilight zone.
Mickey, you did right about having the whole offensive line together again, and I would hope that makes a difference in that particular part of the field against Arizona, where they, have 2 practice squatters call-ups starting that game, I can see that you're kind of maybe one-off excuse game, like, look, hands are tied on that one. But if it lingers even past this when everybody's healthy, then they really have to look at it, don't they?
Well, if you look at the first game, they were 3 for 4 in the red zone, right? 3 for 4 inside the 10-yard line, scoring touchdowns against the Giants. Now, that might not be a big accomplishment since it's the Giants, but they did do that. So, yeah, this will be interesting because a lot of times when you get inside the 20, and especially inside the 10, you need to be able to run the ball. And if practice today and the injury report today, means anything, then they should have their starting 5 guys out there for the first time in like forever. Think about it. They didn't have it in training camp. Terrence Steele was still kind of being limited, coming back from his torn ACL. Then Tyron Smith gets hurt. Then Tyron Smith gets hurt. Then Zach Martin goes down. Then Tyler Biotish goes down. I mean, they played that Arizona game with 3 backups starting on the offensive line. So, yeah, this might be this week, having those guys out there practicing all together could be the first time since the playoff game last year against San Francisco.
Mickey, it's fun to have games like this. I can't wait to get everything I can done on Sunday, sit back, enjoy, maybe have a little queso Rotel dip going or something, or a steak on the grill. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you again next Thursday.
Just don't have too many beverages.
I won't. I will not do that. Thank you. That's Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. And when we come back, Paul, okay, by the way, we killed the fly. We got him. Paul, that was
nobody watching has any idea.
No, we had a fly, a gigantic fly.
It's huge, the size of my fingernail.
You sounded like the guy who came out after Saddam Hussein. The U.S. got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah,
yeah, we got this.
When we come back,
huge fly.
Paul Catalina's top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
Unite Private Networks, why UPN Internet? Look, it's an absolute lifesaver. Protected fiber service for your business, and it is business-grade internet. Dedicated symmetrical upload and download, speeds up to 10 gigabytes per second, and multiple Tier 1 connectivity for added diversity. There's great equipment, carrier-grade equipment, UPS battery-backed up internet service, which we have already seen work for us. We had a brownout a couple weeks ago, and we got right back on, and we were like, how did this happen? Well, it was because of the UPS battery backed up service, and it's 100% fiber optic. Usually when you get fiber optic service to your home or business, the last mile is copper, and it's not all fiber optic. It's mostly fiber. This is 100% fiber, and they've got 20 years of providing this service to businesses, and it is fantastic. The customer service, white glove, 98% customer attention, 98% customer satisfaction. That is what they do at Unite Private Networks. If you're here locally, call our good friend Ace Wigley, 254-803-7070, or check him out online at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC an equal housing lender.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome back. Top 5 Big Ten observations today. Number 5, Michigan is going to have to wait to get its signature win. And Michigan and Georgia, it's weird, guys, that they've both been kind of they're the top 2 teams in the country, and their schedules kind of line up to where, you know, Georgia has a test this week with Kentucky, but the big knock on Georgia is that they look bored. Now, Michigan hasn't achieved the heights that Georgia has, so maybe they're not bored, but for people to really maybe buy in and see how good this Michigan team is, they're going to have to wait till later in the season when they play Penn State to see that signature win over a fellow top 10 team. So they're going to have to wait a while. I still think they're really good, but it's going to be interesting to see the narrative around them if, they just continue doing what they're doing, because they wouldn't have played anybody really challenging to them anytime soon.
So you mean throttling up-and-coming Nebraska team made no difference?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that conveniently.
There was nothing to talk. Matt Rule has been really edgy. Had him in pads the day after the loss.
You not talking about that, like, it reminds me of every time you see like a news story, like none of the major on Twitter, like none of the major people are talking about this tragic news story. Like that's the controversy with you. Yeah. But yeah, look, they don't.
No, they got their ass kicked.
Yeah, they got Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, all before November 11th. They finally play Penn State. And I'm talking about Maryland in a second, but their last 3 before the Big Ten championship, if they do in fact get there, would be at Penn State, at Maryland, and home for the Buckeyes.
Hey,
so their last 3 is
Maryland's
pretty tough.
Pretty good.
Yeah, Maryland's pretty good. We'll talk about them in a second.
They're like unbeaten. They play Ohio State. I wonder if they can kind of make that interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think so. And they're good. But Michigan, it very much have the Georgia disease of just having a pretty weak schedule compared to their level where they currently appear to be, which is right there amongst the top 5 teams in the country, top 4 teams in the country. You could argue that. They seem to be in that upper class, and it's just hard to determine exactly where because of what you stated.
Mm-hmm.
Just the barometer of the tests they've faced up to this point. That does get me excited about those new schedules we were talking about earlier, though, because that Michigan schedule's like, look, but there's like 5 games on there that you can go, circle that one, circle that one, circle that one. But this year, that's not the case. And as you said, it's another a month until they play Penn State. So, this should be a 4-0 run. But they look good. It's just like you said, it's hard to just see exactly where they fit in, but they're definitely amongst the top.
Stay healthy. The defense is nasty. McNamara
really good.
Not McNamara. Who am I thinking about? The quarterback.
J.J. McCarthy.
J.J. McCarthy is really good.
Hurt at Iowa
he's
now.
out for the year. Yeah.
We'll talk about them in a second, too. Number 4, Maryland needs to be paid attention to. They're 5-0. They can score. Mike Loxley's been he's waiting to get that big win. He's done a really good job at Maryland. Mm-hmm. Maryland was such an afterthought for such a long time. Look, they got Tailua Tagovailoa there. they're fun to watch. They've got wide receivers that can make tons of plays. They're going to make things hard for Ohio State this week. That game being in Columbus probably makes it maybe not as likely as they almost got them last year. If you remember, they played like just a back and forth shootout against the Buckeyes and CJ Stroud. So I think they bear watching because they're going to have their opportunities to jump up and bite somebody. So yeah, I think Maryland, you got to pay attention to them. I'm not saying they're going to wind up in Indianapolis at the end of the year, but I think that they could play spoiler for sure if somebody's not ready and can't, maybe go blow for blow with them when it comes to scoring touchdowns, because they are very good on offense.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Talia's been really good. He's a playmaker, no doubt about it, and they can hit some explosives. The question is, can Ohio State? I just feel like they've not been quite to the level of what you'd anticipate with them, and they do have a few more question marks, whether they're actual holes or not. I think still probably is to be determined in some ways, but they're definitely not to the level that we sort of expect them to be in certain areas, whether it's quarterback or just explosive playmakers and things like that. So, yeah, I think Maryland's been a really nice story with their 5-0 start. See how high they can take it. But if I'm Ohio State, I'm definitely on upset watch this week. Yeah. I'm definitely not overlooking this game in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, this should be fun.
I think I put up bangers that's usually ranked against ranked, but this game could be, now I come back and be 63-22. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that score as it kind of matriculates throughout the day.
Yeah, it's an 11 o'clock kick as well, so it's one of the early ones. Number 3, can Iowa get to 325 with a backup QB? I'm sure that Brian Ferentz is wanting to modify it to, can this be the drive to just, how about 5? How about we do that? Like, that would be it, because already with the goose egg on the board a couple weeks ago against Penn State, they only scored, I believe, 16 in the win last week against Michigan State, and now they have a backup quarterback in there who was not Cade McNamara, who's out for the year. So they're with a backup quarterback the rest of the way. Here's another thing that Iowa has to think about. Whether he gets to 325 or not, like if he gets there right now, he's probably barely going to get there. You have got Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA coming into your league next year. You've got Wisconsin, who is running an offense like the ones they're going to be running. Purdue, running an offense like the ones they're going to be running. Ohio State and Michigan are already prolific on offense most year in and year out. Not to mention, it looks like Penn State has found some offensive firepower. And I'm not even getting into what anybody else in the league is doing. And if you're Iowa and you've been consistently good in the league, good, not great because of your offense, maybe you want to consider changing what you're doing, because one of the teams that you are playing this year, now granted it was against Portland State, they scored 81 points in a game. You have not yet done that. It took you 4 weeks to get to 81 points. They did it in one game. Last year you played a similar opponent and gave up, like, it was that game where you had 2 safeties in it. Like, that is something you got to fix if you're Iowa. I don't think they're going to get there with a backup QB, but even still, if so, Brian Ferentz gone or not, or whatever they're going to do, they need to consider what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's become just a joke. I mean, really, it has. It's a running joke each week in college football. The depths of despair when it comes to Iowa's scoring ability on offense, and now you got a situation where you got to back up the rest of the way, right? Deacon Hill taking over for Cade McNamara, so I don't think that helps your chances, like you said. And the thing about it is they can still just go win games. Like that's the thing about Iowa is you can win games, but you're just frustrated by how you win games sometimes. Purdue's interesting with Hudson Card, not quite the start that I thought that they would get off to, or like him as an individual, because he was such a hot commodity in the offseason. But him and Graham Harrell trying to find their bearings there, and it should be a competitive game. But yeah, the Iowa scoring struggles offensively, I mean, that's going to be a thing until it's not anymore. And they're good enough defensively to make up for some of that. But it's it's just a trudge I would not want to be a part of as a fan at this point.
Yeah, you know what? We're not using the graphics. Somebody just asked me because we had some kind of a change in the way it's set up, but we'll have that fixed. Could we have done this same top 5 and included Iowa last year? Maybe not the other ones, but it's like a trip down
probably nothing's changed.
Deja vu all over again, like Yogi Berra said.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we do have the graphics of the of up. So
okay, good.
We just can't see it
all right
on our monitor today. We'll have it back all tomorrow. It's just it's Katie Rader can explain it to all of you, but it's software update issues and non-compatibility with other stuff. So yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Just kidding.
Number 2.
No, I was about to...
Yeah, number 2. Can Wisconsin put it together? they've only got the one loss to Wazoo, and Wazoo's very good, but they just don't seem like they're hitting on all those cylinders yet. It is. Here's the thing we didn't talk about, like the quarterback Tanner Mordecai, who's had a little bit of ups and downs. He knows the offense, but there are a bunch of players on that team that were running a completely different offense last year, and I think that might be why they look kind of stop and starty right now. But if Wisconsin can put it together, they can be, a legit threat in the league. I just wonder if this is I'm sure Luke Fickell has to think of it this way, if this is the transition year before they really start hitting on all cylinders eventually.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're not off to a bad start, but I mean, who they lost to
Wazoo.
To Wazoo, yeah. So I mean, like that's not that disappointing of a win. But yeah, I think let's just be honest, guys. The thing with Tanner Mordecai is he can be very hit or miss. He can be very spotty. We love him. Mm-hmm. We watched him his whole career in high school. But for as much as he can dazzle you, he can also throw some just mind-bending interceptions or, make some decisions that aren't so great. I think they're just kind of going through the trials and tribulations right now. But it's year one, so I expect this is going to get better as time goes by.
And the good news for them, though, like I say that, look, they have Rutgers this week, Iowa, Illinois, then they have Ohio State. That's going to be tough. At Indiana, Northwestern, Nebraska, and Minnesota. So
they can run the table except one game unless they're like
they can wind up 10-2 and feel fine.
Absolutely.
They haven't looked like they've done that yet, and they haven't had the toughest part of the schedule. So we'll see. I think.
Well, when you're dressing everything up in the offseason, you're thinking like Tanner Mordecai and Phil Longo and Luke Fickell, like the air raid, and like, oh my God, in the Big Ten, the air raid is going to be crazy. And like, it all sounds great, but it takes some time, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of what they're dealing with. They had the injury to Malusi at running back, so we're going to see more Braylon Allen there. As they got to replace some carries. But, yeah, Tanner can be hit or miss, but he's going to have a big game at some point, and we'll be raving about him. And then he'll have another one where he throws a couple of picks, and you're just like, ah! But I think they're just working through this first year, and I think they're still in a good spot and, some things to be excited about.
Yep. And number one, is Ohio State for real on defense? Because if they have fixed that problem – look, we know they're really good. That Notre Dame game, or was that a one-off? But are they better on defense? Have they finally, has Jim Knowles fixed that? Because he was brought in a couple years ago to do it, and last year hadn't yet. But this year, maybe they have shorted up to where they're not going to get gashed.
They've given up 34 points. Now, again, Indiana, Youngstown State, West, but they have not given up any points.
No, and today tomorrow or Saturday, we'll see.
14 with Notre Dame, yeah.
They're playing an offense that lights it up.
Yeah, Ohio State, I think, is still very, very good. I think they're, still capable of being explosive. The Marvin Harrison Jr. stuff is,
concerning?
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. After he got hurt, and I know that Ryan Day had an interview and had an update on that, and I can't quite recall what he said. He explained sort of what happened, and it seems like something he's still working through after, landing weird. So that's just something to monitor. Obviously, what a great of a player as he is. But, I think the big concern here is you're Ohio State, and you're a defense that has been known for giving up explosive plays ever since Jim Knowles came over from Stillwater. And you're facing a team where how can they beat you? This super explosive offense and quarterback who can make big plays. So that's like the big dynamic, I think, entering this game. And yeah, there's some cause for concern there, but I do think that this is the type of offense that you face where you'll have a pretty good idea or a better idea about where you stand after you face Talia and company.
Yeah, if it's like 59-33 or something like that, like they can just overwhelm you with their talent. Harrison, 17 catches, 336 yards, averaging nearly 20 yards a catch and 3 scores, which in some cases could be a game for him. It seemed like, but that's one of the things about Ohio State. The best receivers coming back, and then somebody else comes up. Remember in Jigma Smith and Smith and Jigma and others that stepped up when they had injuries.
Yeah, but Marvin Harrison's like a special kind of freak. He's like a special kind of freaky. But you're right. If there's a program that can usually afford those types of losses, Ohio State's proven to be one, but I think just so much expectations for him and how good he is that, you worry a little bit when he's getting dinged up like that. So, that's going to be a fun game. I can't wait to watch that one. And, you might not always think of Big Ten and the most exciting football, right? They kind of the stereotype sometimes of 3 yards and a cloud of dust, but that's a game right there that ought to have a lot of fireworks attached to it, so that'll be fun.
Garrett, are you on strike tomorrow?
I hope not. We will find out, though. I got to speak to my representatives.
Garrett shut it down today. Something he did last night after the show ended, and then
come on.
Paul and Jack had to come in and try to. He sabotaged. No kidding. We had like you said, a little blip. Thanks to Katie Rader, I didn't realize she was involved as much as she is. So
appreciate it. Yeah.
We're done.
No, she can explain the technical issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I gave her too much credit.
Never mind, Katie Rader.
She's a little upset with us right now because of the Texas OU coverage. She's a little bit.
I mean,
we did have Joey and Dave on earlier this week.
Biggest ranked matchup in over a decade for these two, over a decade for these two teams. And I get last one ever in the Big 12. But I mean, this has a lot of importance on it because if Oklahoma wins this game, then the rest of their schedule looks pretty nice. If Texas wins this game, it's hard to see where a lot of the stumbling blocks are coming from. I mean, this is the game that could determine whether one of them's in the college football playoff. You know what I mean? So I think that's why
or
it's
at least initially the Big 12
or at least initially in the Big 12. Yeah, let's start there. Big 12 title game. The winner of this game will have taken over the driver's seat, so to speak. So yeah, it's got importance, but I get it. But it's Red River, so.
Garrett, thank you very much. Owen, Walker, Jack, Levi, Emery, don't forget tonight, 365 Sports Tonight on the CW, every weeknight at 10:30. Paul will be here tomorrow. Craig and I will have a high school football game to broadcast in Temple, and that will be interesting with Midway not right now with their head coach and Shane Anderson. I'm David Smoak for Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. For you and our great sponsors, thank you, and have a great Thursday night.